Coming up on Sports Desk, the NHL playoffs are underway. The Canucks hit a snag. Candy Maldonado helps the Jays hang on to a victory at Fenway. And the Expos get tough at home. Welcome to Sports Desk. I'm Gino Reda. It is nice to have you here. Well, a number of deadlines came and went. 3 final offers also fell by the wayside. And now the strike is just an ugly memory. It's 10 days late. But the postseason is finally here in the NHL. The Campbell Conference opened things up this year. First up, the Smythe Division. The Kings at home to play L.A. and the Canucks at home to play the Jets. Vancouver proved they were the best in the Smythe over the regular season. But the momentum edge has to go to the Jets. Winnipeg unbeaten in 8 games leading up to the playoffs. The first time in history these two teams have met in postseason play. First Canuck home ice advantage since 1982. Rick Tabaracci, the starting goal for Winnipeg, and the Canucks hit to him midway through the first. Great play by Greg Adams, who centers to Igor Larionov. Larionov beats Tabaracci. Tabaracci thinks he may have stopped it, but he did not. 1-0 Vancouver. Later in the period, Jets on the power play. Frederick Olofsson lets the shot go through the screen, tied at 1 after 20 minutes. The second period, Canucks with a great opportunity. Greg Adams with much of the net to shoot at, but stopped by Tabaracci. Still 1-1. Later, Canucks, 3 men in the penalty box. Penalty killing unit does a great job. So does Kurt McLean as he robs Phil Housley. A little later on, still playing shorthanded, McLean comes up big again. Troy Murray from just outside the crease, stoned. Still in the second. Jets on a 2-on-1. Troy Murray shoots it wide. The puck goes the other way. Fergus and Bure play a little give and go. Fergus to Bure, who will just tip it in. 2-1 Vancouver. Third period now, game's tied at 2. Canucks cough up the puck, and Eddie Olchuk makes him pay for it. In all alone, Olchuk slides it in. It is the game winner as Winnipeg hangs on to thump the Canucks in Vancouver by a score of 3-2 in Game 1. The Jets lead the series 1-0. This is the Jets' first win at Vancouver in 5 games this season. Nice timing. Olofsson, Olchuk, Davidoff for Winnipeg, for Vancouver, Larionov, and Pavel Bure. On now to the other Smythe Division semifinal. This are the Great Western Forum in L.A. Oilers counting on Bill Ranford to come up with a Conn Smythe performance similar to 1990. First period, Oilers leading 1-0. Vincent Danfus puts it across to Brian Glenn. He puts it in, and the Oilers take a 2-0 lead. Later in the period, Larry Robinson catches Craig Simpson with his head down and makes him pay for it. Robinson puts him on the seat of his pants. Second period, Oilers on the power play. Glynn shot from the point goes in off of John McIntyre, and the Oilers lead it 3-0 on the road. Later in the period, Kings ruin Ranford's shutout. Rob Blake knocks in the loose puck. L.A. trails 3-1, but that's as close as L.A. would get. In the end, Edmonton over L.A. by a score of 3-1. Danfus and Glynn with a pair for Edmonton. For L.A., Rob Blake, the only one for the Kings. The Oilers take a 1-0 lead in this series. Playoff action kicked off in the Norris on Saturday night as well. Minnesota and Detroit opened at Joe Louis, and the Blues opened at the league's noisiest building, the Chicago Stadium. The break was great news for St. Louis, giving Brett Hull and Curtis Joseph enough time to heal their wounds. Season series almost dead even. Slight edge to the Hawks, but that doesn't matter to Sutter and his troops. 3.5 minutes into the game, Dave Christian sets up in the slot, takes the feed from Rick Zombo, over Belfour's shoulder, hits the crossbar and in. 1-0 St. Louis. Blues netminder Curtis Joseph, fresh back from his injury, gets a little lucky early on. Steve Larmer, wide open net. Stefan Quintel sticks out the stick, goes off the stick, off the crossbar, and out. Eddie Belfour, just as impressive. Brett Hull feeds Brendan Shanahan. Shanahan thinks he's got him beat top corner, but Belfour squeezes it. Late in the second period, Jeff Brown gets caught up ice. Mike Hudson beats Brian Noonan. Noonan ties the game at 1. Jocelyn Lemieux put the Hawks up 2-1 late in the second. Then early in the third, Noonan will slip in the loose puck. He's left all alone at the side of the net. Puts in his second of the game, giving Chicago a 3-1 lead. The Blackhawks hang on to win at home, 3-1. Noonan with a pair, Lemieux with the third goal for Chicago. For St. Louis, it's 1 goal. It was Dave Christian. Blackhawks lead the series 1-0 now. And the other Norris Division semifinal in Detroit, Minnesota visiting. Sergei Fedorov, big part of this game. Short-handed early on, beats Casey on the breakaway, 1-0 for the Wings. Rugged first period of play. Sean Burr gets a minor after taking Todd Ellick into the boards hard. physical affair. Second period, game tied at 1. Bobby Smith has Steve Chase all over him. Still puts it in, beating Chevalier. 2-1 North Stars. Late in the second period, John Casey, big mistake. Tries to keep the play alive, tries to stick handle it. Big mistake. Fedorov makes him pay for it with the second of the game. Game is tied at 2. Then 15 seconds left in the period. Steve Yzerman with a great move. Takes his time, puts in a backhand, the gaping at the net. Detroit leads 3-2 after 2. Third period, game tied at 3. North Stars looking to take the lead. Brian Bellows puts it in. Chevalier throws up his arms in despair. Can't believe it went in. Never saw it. Minnesota off to another great start in the Stanley Cup playoffs with a 4-3 victory on the road over the Red Wings. Shaw, Smith, Johnson, and Bellows for the North Stars. For Detroit, it was Fedorov for the pair and Stevie Yzerman. So the Stars take a 1-0 lead in the series. This marks the 5th straight series that the North Stars have won Game 1 on the road. Of course, that dates back to last year. We're going to take a short break here on Sports Desk, but when we come back, more hockey. The New York Rangers will begin play on Sunday night. This year, as they hoisted the President's Trophy, it was their first league championship in 50 years. And now the big question is, can they go on to win their first Stanley Cup in 52 years? We'll also check in with the Canadiens, who decided to get away from it all. But this was no vacation.
Today, Pepsi announced a new slogan. Mere words? Or is the taste of Pepsi so big, America's really got to have it?
Gotta have it. It's something I felt for years, but never had the words to express.
If it's so popular, how come everybody's drinking it?
Henry's only regret is that he started drinking Pepsi this late in life.
The phrase, gotta have it, strikes a chord deep in the human psyche.
Now that everybody's gotta have it, Pepsi's not gonna need celebrity endorsers anymore.
And that's what I've been saying all along.
"62 teams from across the country joined to compete in the Canadian Unity Hockey Tournament at Maple Leaf Gardens. TSN documents the minor league hockey experience. Saturday, 1 Eastern, here on Real TV, TSN.
Playoffs will continue on Sunday night with games in Boston, Montreal, New York, and Washington. The Adams will see the Canadiens welcome the Whalers to the Forum. Hartford has never made it by Montreal in the playoffs. The only time they made it to the second round was in 1986. Then they faced Montreal in the second round and lost. The Sabres have been just as frustrated by the Boston Bruins. Buffalo has never beaten Boston in a playoff series. The last time the Sabres made it to the second round was in 1983. You know, on one hand, the Canadiens have reason to be confident. They've proven they're the strongest team in the Adams. But at the same time, confidence has dwindled lately thanks to an 8-game winless stretch to end the season. Pat Burns took drastic action to shake up the team out of their slump. He actually took them into seclusion.
This is Bromont, Quebec, a mountain retreat about 80 kilometers east of Montreal. It's here in this rustic setting that the Canadiens have been holed up for their upcoming series against the Hartford Whalers. The local arena was a busy place for the last 3 days as Pat Burns put his players through 2-a-day workouts plus videos into the night.
It's not really a situation where it's all serious either. A lot of the guys, we have pool tables and pinball machines and whatnot set up, a giant screen with a satellite dish, and the guys relax a lot, and that's what we want. We just want to keep them together right now and make them relax a bit and make sure that their heads are screwed on straight for the start of the playoffs.
It's all well and good to get the players away from the city and the distractions and out into the country here and concentrating on hockey. But Pat Burns has a bigger task at hand, and that's reminding his players how to win, something they haven't done in a while. The Canadiens haven't won in their last 8. In fact, they haven't played a game that's meant anything for the last month.
We know we haven't played that well, and we're a little bit worried about it, but I think that's how a team should be entering the playoffs. They should be a little bit worried. They shouldn't be too relaxed, and we're not.
The main thing is to be ready when the playoffs come, and we've got a lot of guys who have a lot of experience in playoffs, so I think that's going to help us.
Postseason play may be old hat to some of these players, but there are a couple of rookies on this club who are just dying to see their first playoff action.
Pretty lucky to be in the Montreal organization because they always, make the playoffs in a way. In some way, I don't know how they do it, but now that I'm in it, it's just great.
Russ Courtnall is yet to catch fire this season. He's been injured much of the year and has played in only 28 games. Courtnall was one of Montreal's best players in last year's playoffs. Shane Corson has also been in and out of the lineup all year long, and like Courtnall, has yet to find his rhythm. Both players will be needed in top form if the Canadiens hope to survive round one. Michael Whalen, TSN in Bromont, Quebec.
You know, Boston used to be known as the Big Bad Bruins, but that label no longer applies. Short and hard-working may be a little more appropriate lately. They had some really low times during this past season. What they needed was some young, fresh legs in time for the playoffs, and that's exactly what they got when the Olympics were over. Gord Miller has more.
Try these names on for size: Donatelli, Murray, Hines, Hughes, Hines, Gino, and Donato. If you haven't checked in on the Boston Bruins lately, you're in for a surprise. Rookies abound, most of them coming over to the Bees from the U.S. and Canadian Olympic programs.
A lot of young legs, and I think that, you know, in the short time they've been around, they've played really well and have brought a lot of emotion, and I think they're going to make a difference.
Steve Hines, for instance, has shown the Bruins that he has the capability to score goals. And since joining the team in early March, Joe Juneau has done the same. These guys are busy changing the perception of the Big Bad Bruins.
We still play a real hard-nosed style, but I don't think there's as many, like you said, there's some more skating, there's not as many big bruises on the team, but we can play either situation if we have to, I think.
For Clark Donatelli, playing for Boston is a dream come true. The former captain of Team USA grew up in Providence, Rhode Island, and attended Boston University.
You know, I watched Boston growing up my whole life, and they were always my favorite team. And, you know, it's an honor to get an opportunity to play for Boston and wear the sweater and get out there and play. So I'm just going to try to make the best of it and go out there and work as hard as I can.
Not only has there been a youth movement of late, but Boston has made a number of changes throughout the season. But with all the changes that have happened so far, who knows if this bunch can do the same.
It's going to have to happen. I mean, we don't have all that much time, but, you know, we're going to have to really gel quick as a team here and go out and play well. It's just a matter of playing hard and playing together, you know, and I think we're going to do that.
The Patriot Division semifinals also get underway on Sunday night. The Penguins earned the right to play the Capitals by finishing with one more win than the Devils. That's how close it was. Washington and Pittsburgh have only met in postseason play in one series. The Pens won that series 4-1. And the Devils, with the unenviable task of facing the Rangers in the first round of the playoffs, Las Vegas odds makers have made the Rangers the favorites to add their Stanley Cup to the President's Trophy. If they can do that, it'll mean the end of a very long drought in the Big Apple.
Award money.
This year's New York Rangers have done something no Ranger team has done in 50 years. Finished first overall.
We had a pretty good team back in the late 70s here in Toronto with Darryl Sittler, and we had another pretty good one in Buffalo, but with Jill Perreault. But this is definitely the best team. We have more balance. We have two really good goalkeepers, and we have Mark Messier.
The influence of a man whose teammates call Messiah cannot be overestimated. He joined this club less than 1 year ago, but has unmistakably led the charge to the top. And like all great leaders, credits those around him.
You know, I think our commitment and our to the game and our approach to the game has really been a major factor in the success we've had this year. We've gone into every game feeling we could win. We've come to the rink to play every night for the 80-game schedule, and I think that's certainly one of the reasons why we're able to achieve that goal.
The Rangers were unquestionably the best this year, but their record within their own division was only marginally better than .500, and getting out of the Patrick division could mean dethroning the Stanley Cup champions.
Focusing on a situation at hand which is Pittsburgh, it's going to be a very difficult task, and we don't push anybody aside. Every game we played against every team, it didn't matter who it was, we focused on that individual game, and I think that's what it takes.
Within our division, we got 3 teams besides ourselves that I think believe they have an equal shot at the Cup as we do. So we got a lot of work in our first round and in the rounds following that to get to the Cup.
Staying healthy is something Ranger teams have had a lot of trouble doing every time they're in position to contend. But for now, at least, everyone's healthy. And in that respect, the 10-day strike layoff was a positive.
If anything, it'll help everyone, and I think it'll improve the hockey in the playoffs because everyone's rested, and everyone's feeling good, and all the injuries are healed up, and you'll see a lot better playoff, I think, because of it.
With a cast that features MVP frontrunner Mark Messier, Norris Trophy favorite Brian Leetch, Rookie of the Year hopeful Tony Amonte, and perhaps the best goaltending tandem in hockey in Richter and Van Beesbroek, this could be the team that breaks the 52-year jinx.
I think that going into this playoffs right now, you know, you don't want to say you feel comfortable, but I feel confident.
Etsy Zinos, TSN, Toronto.
All right, time for one more break here on Sports Desk. But when we come back... Coming up on Sports Desk, Mark Messier leads the top-ranked Rangers into the playoffs. The Blue Jays hit a stumbling block in Boston. And the Lakers may miss the playoffs for the first time in 16 years.
Sports Desk, brought to you by Le Mans, offering European styling at an affordable price. Available at your Pontiac Buick GMC dealership.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sports Desk on the second night of the NHL playoffs. I'm Gino Reda. It's nice to have you here. The Campbell Conference kicked things off on Saturday night. 3 upsets on opening night. Sunday, the Whales got underway. We'll begin our night's recap in the Patrick. And other than the cash bonus that goes along with the President's Trophy, the Rangers got very little for their first-place finish during the regular season. Their playoff reward, a first-round matchup with the New Jersey Devils, a team that has given them trouble all season long. You know, there's not much doubt that Mark Messier has led this team to the playoffs. New York gets off to a quick start. Darren Turcotte has a couple of chances. Great stop by Tereri. And then while he sprawled, Turcotte puts it in, 1-0 Rangers. Devils try to even the score in the second. Randy McKay will let the shot go. The puck gets behind John Van Beesbroek, but he turns and bats it just before across the goal line. Late in the second, Rangers almost go up by a pair. Paul Broughton lets the shot go, and look, it stops on the goal line before it's batted away. Still 1-0 New York. Then Mike Gardner picks up the puck. Chris Tereri knocked out of the crease. Gardner with the wraparound, 2-0 Rangers. Devils get back into the game. Peter Stastny drops to Sedens Seagar. Great wrist shot past Van Beesbroek, but not enough. That's as close as the Devils will get on this night. The Rangers take a 1-0 series lead with a 2-1 victory. Seagar, the only goal for the Devils. For the Rangers, it was Turcotte and Gardner. Van Beesbroek stopped 37 of 38 shots. The defending Stanley Cup champions are in deep against the Capitals, especially when you consider the fact that Lemieux was a scratch in Game 1. He has a sore right shoulder. That makes it almost impossible for him to pass or shoot the puck. With him out, and that in mind, the Pens knew they'd have to get a little physical. They do. Bob Airy, big run at Don Beaupre, knocks him into the net. Beaupre gives him the shot in the head. A little later on, Phil Bourque clips Dino Ciccarelli. He's going for 5 in the high stick. Ciccarelli lips off a little to the referee. Fraser said, I knew the call, and now you're gone for 2 as well. Some great goaltending as Barrasso stops John Druce. Then Don Beaupre stops Ron Francis. Lots of action, but no scoring after 20 minutes. Second period, the goals finally come. Peter Bondra on the breakaway beats Barrasso 1-0 Washington. Later in the period, game tied at 1. Past playoff hero John Druce lets the shot go, his first of the postseason. Great blast to the corner, 2-1 Caps after 40 minutes. Third period now, still 2-1. Washington puts the game away. Peter Bondra gets his second of the game, left all alone. 3-1 Washington. After the game decided, things get a little physical. Rick Tocchet, despite the broken jaw, goes toe-to-toe with Kevin Hatcher. Things get a little ugly. The rubber chicken goes down for the count. Washington beats Pittsburgh by a score of 3-1. Incidentally, Mario Lemieux is expected to play in Game 2. Troy Loney, the only goal for Pittsburgh in this game. It was Bondra with a pair and John Druce running the scoring for the Capitals. If momentum means anything, the Habs could be in serious trouble. They were on an 8-game winless streak to end the regular season. Pat Burns was so worried he took the team away to a secluded resort in an effort to refocus. The only good news is Montreal is facing the Whalers in the first round. That should buy them enough time to get back on track. They say you've got to be good to be lucky. Patrick Roy was both in the early going of this game. Midway through the first, glorious chance for the Whalers. Roy is down, but Ivan Korovo misses the open net. Seconds later, scramble out in front. Patrick Poulin, the shot off the post. Whalers denied again. Late in the first, Montreal with the man advantage. Gilbert Dion picks up the puck behind the Whaler net. Dion, the wraparound, scores. Beats Frank Pietrangelo, and it's 1-0 for the Canadiens. Midway through the second. Why is Pat Burns smiling? Because Azarli Zalapsky drops to Murray Craven. Craven lets the shot go, beats Waugh, but hits the post again. Late in the second, still 1-0 Habs. Loose puck in front of the net. Waugh stops it off the shoulder, robbing Steve Conroy. 1-0 Montreal after 2. Third period, great chance for Montreal. Dion hits the post. At the other end, Patrick Waugh still sharp. Bobby Holik the shot, and Waugh throws at the glove, makes a stop. Late in the third period, 3-on-1 Montreal. Savard goes to Dion. Dion goes to the back of the net. Scores his second of the game. Montreal shuts out Hartford in game 1 of the series, leading 1-0 now with a 2-0 victory. Gilbert Dion, both goals. Patrick Waugh turned aside. 32 shots, recorded his 5th career playoff shutout. On now to the Sabres and Bruins. Tom Draper, a surprise start, his first ever playoff start. Draper certainly surprised the Bruins. Big stop here on Ted Donato. Later in the first, Buffalo playing shorthanded. Peter Svoboda, Christian Rutu, 2-on-1. Svoboda hangs on and lets the shot go, beats Moog, and it's 1-0 for the Sabres. Second period, Buffalo adds their lead. Dave Andrewchuk lets the shot go. The shot beats Moog but doesn't go in. The rebound goes to Pat LaFontaine while Moog's looking for the puck. LaFontaine puts it in. Sabres lead 2-0. As expected, it's a very physical game. Steve Leach gives Keith Carney a ride into the glass. Now the third, 3-0 Sabres, but the Bruins fought back. Vladimir Ruzicka to Adam Oates. Boston trails by 2. Late in the third, Boston trailing by 1, desperately trying to tie. Steve Leach with the shot. Beats the goaltender, but it goes wide of the net. And the Sabres hold on to beat the Bruins at the Garden 3-2. The final score, they take a 1-0 lead in the series. Svoboda, LaFontaine, and Bodger for the Sabres. For the Bruins, it was Oates and Vladimir Ruzicka. The Sabres won despite being outshot 38-30. As I mentioned a little earlier, 3 road teams were winners on Saturday night. Great situation to be in. At worst, they head home for Game 3 of the series, tied at a game apiece. Each of the teams has different reasons for their upsets. As far as the Jets are concerned, they say it wasn't anything fancy, just hard work.
The Winnipeg Jets could very well be the dark horse in these 1992 playoffs. The Jets took the opening game in their series with Vancouver 3-2. In typical Jets fashion, the victory had a very blue-collar style to it.
I think that's what playoffs is. That's the way we've played all year because we haven't had much choice. The kind of team we have for now and the players that are the lineup, I think that's what playoffs is. And I think Vancouver's a blue-collar hockey team, too.
The way we're going to win is by defensive hockey. We were 16th or 17th overall in National Hockey League for goals for. Goals against, we were 3rd. So we know that when it comes playoff time, that you have to keep the goals out of your net in order to win. And we come to work every night. That's from the top scorers right down to the muckers and grinders that are supposedly expected to do that.
As for the Canucks, suddenly their dream season can turn into a nightmare if they do not turn things around Monday in Vancouver.
We'll have to regroup. I mean, the games have never been won, to my knowledge, with a win in the first game. We did it last year down in Los Angeles, and it became a longer series.
As Quinn has suggested, it is far too early for the Canucks and their organization to start to panic. But their job now is clear. They must even up things on Monday before this series heads back to Winnipeg. David Pratt, TSN, Vancouver.
Time for a break on Sports Desk, but when we come back, we'll turn our attention.
Coming up on Sports Desk, take a deep breath. We have all the NHL playoff action. A couple of Boston marathons, one at Fenway Park between the Jays and the Red Sox, and another winding its way through the streets of Boston.
Sports Desk, brought to you by Le Mans, offering European styling at an affordable price. Available at your Pontiac Buick GMC dealership.
Hello there, I'm Paul Romanuk. 4 hockey playoff games, 10 baseball games, and the plays of the week all coming up in a fast-moving 30 minutes. Starting off with the hockey and the Vancouver Canucks, a team that should shoot a lot more often than they do. The Canucks with decent talent up front, Trevor Linden, Pavel Bure, Igor Larionov, but they only managed 5 shots on goal in the third period in Game 1 of their series, only 19 overall. It was different on this night, although you see an early example in tonight's game. Jyrki Lemieux in a great position to shoot, and he passed it off. Kirk McLean in goal for Vancouver. He was razor sharp as he was in the opening game. A few minutes later, Vancouver opens the scoring. Tom Fergus.
There's Linden in front.
From the side of the net, Linden set him up. It's 1-0 Vancouver. Early second period, the Jets will tie it up. Keith Kachuk comes in. And McLean makes the first move. Kachuk makes the final move. 1-1 midway through the second. It's Trevor Linden picking it up in front. And he beats Tabarachi. It's 2-1 for Vancouver. Now to the third period. Game tied at 2. Igor Larionov will get it in front to Lume.
Looking for the go-ahead goal. Larionov in front. Lume scores!
And he puts it in past Tabarachi. And it's 3-2 in favor of the Canucks. They win it by that score. And the series is now tied at 1 game apiece. Kachuk and Aaron Broughton scoring for Winnipeg. Tom Fergus, Trevor Linden, and Jyrki Lume scoring for the Vancouver Canucks. All knotted up. Vancouver shot more, and it paid off. The Edmonton Oilers couldn't do much against the LA Kings all season long. 1 win in 7 games. But in Game 1 of the Smythe semifinal, the Oilers did things they hadn't been able to do all year, like kill penalties. The Oilers were second worst in the NHL in penalty killing this season. Second worst. But they killed off all 9 LA power plays in Game 1. And early in this game, it was LA going on the power play again. And it was Wayne Gretzky, who was behind the net, going to work for the LA Kings, as he so often does, on the man advantage. And the Oilers couldn't kill this one off. Gretzky gets it in front. Paul Coffey scores it. It's 1-0 LA with a power play goal. David Maley gets in front here, and he will backhand it in behind Kelly Rudy, and it's 2-1. The Oilers lead the game. Just when the Oilers thought they had a stranglehold on the Kings, back they came. Luc Robitaille, great pass to Tony Granato. Beats Ranford, and then takes a cheap shot of a cross-check from Greg Hoggood. It's 2-2. Hoggood gets tossed from the game as well. He should have after that cheap shot. Kings in the power play. Coffey fires it in. Gretzky with the assist. LA leads by 1. Power plays killing the Oilers on this night. Midway through the second, Rob Blake. Look at this. What a rush. 5-4 for LA. And then in the third, 6-4 Kings, and here's Yari Curry.
Curry, he shoots, he scores!
Blasting it home from the point to beat Ron Tugnut. 7-4 for the Kings. Tugnut came in the third period. Didn't matter, though. Old Oilers never die. Indeed, they don't. It was the old Oilers doing some damage to the new Oilers in this game. Listen to the LA scoring. Paul Coffey with 2 goals. Marty McSorley with a goal. Charlie Huddy with a goal. And Yari Curry with a goal. All former Oilers. Tony Granato, Rob Blake, Mike Donnelly scored the other LA goals. Bernie Nichols with a pair. David Maley, Joe Murphy, and Martin Gélina scoring for Edmonton. Great expectations of the Detroit Red Wings in this postseason from their fans, and I mean great expectations. This year's team finishing with the highest point total for a Detroit team in 40 years. But they wobbled a little bit under the weight of those expectations in games 1 and 2. They didn't look good tonight either. Stars in the power play. Tenorti to Modano. Beats Chevrolet. It's 1-0 Minnesota. Doesn't take long for things to get tough in this one either. Yves Racine roughing up Mike Craig. And then Kevin Miller comes up with the big open ice hit on the veteran Bobby Smith. Late in the period, the score tied at 1. Modano to Bellows to Gagne. 2-1 for the North Stars. Then in the second period, the return of the Smith and Smith show. It's Bobby to Derek. Minnesota leads at 3-1. Then 41 seconds into the third period, Alan Kerr with a shot from the slot and surprises Casey. Wings trail 3-2. After that goal, Casey shuts the door on the Red Wings. He's unbeatable. He's fantastic. Fedorov will fire a blast in from the slot. And look at Casey, just follows him across. Nice stop there. And then time running out. Nicholas Lidstrom, big cannonading shot from the point to cop a phrase from the great Danny Gallivan. And it was Casey with the great stop. And Minnesota defeats Detroit 4-2. The North Stars are up 2-0. Fate whispering in their ear once again, saying upset, just like last year in the playoffs. The St. Louis Blues look forward to playing in Chicago Stadium about as much as Al Capone used to look forward to tax audits. The Blues way in the red in the ledger in Chicago. 1 win in the last 10 games they have played at the stadium, including a loss in Game 1 of their series against the Blackhawks on Saturday night. They are trying to shake off those shackles in this game. He'll drink to that. That's Norm sitting behind the Chicago bench. He's everywhere in Chicago. The Bulls, the Bears, the Hawks, and the hit early in this game draws some blood from Chris Chelios. Nelson Emerson got 5 in a game for that. Seconds later, Hawks power play, and Chelios beats Joseph. The score is tied at 1. Then in the same power play, Chelios with his second of the period beats Joseph. It's 2-1 Chicago. Late in the first, Brian Marchment and Darren Kimball go at it. What a scrap. And ice all around on the knuckles after that. St. Louis battles back in the second. Brett Hull moves in and beats Belfour. The game's tied at 3. Then late in the period, Bob Basson to Jeff Brown. And Brown puts the Blues in front 4-3. Belfour goes for the smelling salts. He can't believe it. Chicago losing to St. Louis on home ice. That is unusual. St. Louis wins at 5-3, however, come up with a big win. Their record in playoff games in Chicago, going back, let's say 18 games or so, is 4-14 in the postseason in Chicago, but they pick up the win tonight. To say the Pittsburgh Penguins are only as good as Mario Lemieux is really to do a bit of a disservice to everyone else in the Penguins. But then again, it is absolutely true nonetheless. Lemieux missing the opening game of the Penn series against Washington on Sunday in Pittsburgh, losing that game. Looks as though he will play in Game 2, however.
It feels pretty good, a lot better than it did yesterday, and there's improvement every day, so should be ready to go by tomorrow.
Should or will?
Probably will play tomorrow. You know, from the practice today, and I was able to shoot the puck a little better and make some passes, so I will play tomorrow.
You really get the feeling that players not in the Stanley Cup playoffs are just dreading that phone call.
Tonight on Sports Desk, Mario Lemieux is back for the Pittsburgh Penguins. At Olympic Stadium, the Expos have the fans thinking hockey. And Canada's national soccer team continues its World Cup qualifying round.
Sports Desk is brought to you by Right Guard Deodorant. Anything else would be uncivilized. And by Chrysler Canada. All you have to do is drive one.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sports Desk. Teresa Hergert along with Paul Romanuk this evening. Also ahead on the show, it was a big night for Canadian pitchers in the major leagues. 3 of them got their start for the respective clubs. We've got the highlights.
And we'll also talk a little bit about Dave Steve. He's going to make his return to the mound tomorrow for the Jays. We will hear from Steve. We talked to him during batting practice today.
But first to the Wales Conference, Paul, and the Penguins welcoming back Lemieux this evening.
And happy to do so, no doubt, because without Mario Lemieux, the Pittsburgh Penguins' arms just a little too short to box with fate at times. They lost Game 1 of their Patrick Division semifinal against Washington without Lemieux in the lineup. They missed his punch for sure. And whether it was just window dressing or not, Lemieux was adamant yesterday at practice that he would play in tonight's game. His shoulder would be just fine. And Lemieux did suit up for this game in the lineup for the Penguins and looked okay, at least during the warm-up. First period, Penguins in the power play, and Lemieux strikes, assists on Larry Murphy's goal, and it's 1-0 for Pittsburgh. Moments later, Lemieux strikes again. This time he sets up Kevin Stevens. Great start for number 66, and for the Penguins, they're up 2-0. They're up 2-1, and watch this effort by Bondra. He gets his third in 2 games, and we're tied at 2. Less than a minute. The Capitals get a power play marker. Michael Pavanka with the goal. That is less than a minute to go in the first period. It's 3-2 Washington. Second period. Here's Cicerelli. Great effort. 5-2 Caps after 2. In the third period, Capitals put it on ice. Kelly Miller from back of the net comes out to beat Barrasso. 6-2 Washington. Go figure. So Pittsburgh Penguins, even with Lemieux in the lineup and even with Lemieux helping out on a couple of those goals, not able to come through and beat Washington. Capitals have a darn good team. Kristich, Bondra, Vivaka, Cote, Stevens for Pittsburgh, Lemieux with assists on both of those goals.
Sunday night's game between New Jersey and the Rangers was a close, tight-checking affair with the Devils in it right till the end. But it was the Rangers who took the early lead in the series, and if New Jersey was hoping to tie it up tonight, then they'd have to find some way to get past Ranger goalie John Van Beesbroek. He's got a goals against average of just 1 in his last 9 games. Early in the first, Messier goes to work for New York. Up the side. And he goes in, picks the top corner. Beautiful goal as the Rangers go ahead 1-0. Now late in the first, game tied up at 1, a 2-on-none for the Devils, but Van Beesbroek stops Randy McKay. On the second period, Rangers down at this point 2-1. Ryan Leach's shot goes off the bar, but Graves pokes in the loose puck and ties it up at 2. But the Devils answered back with 3 straight goals. First, Claude Lemieux. He eludes Messier, and then he one-times at home, puts Jersey ahead 3-2. Early in the third, rookie Bill Guerin, he blows this one past Van Beesbroek. Look at this one. And New Jersey grabs a 5-2 lead in the game. Messier's second goal of the game made it 5-3, but Claude Lemieux adds some insurance with his second of the night. And New Jersey evens up the series with a 7-3 win. Scoring for New Jersey, Todd, Stasny, Lemieux with a pair, Boschman, Guerin, and Weinrich. For the Rangers, Mark Messier with 2 goals, Adam Graves recording his first of this playoff season, and a big win for the Devils. They even this Pac Division semi at 1 game apiece.
The Hartford Whalers' game plan against Montreal, a tried and proven one for weaker teams against much stronger opponents. Conservative, take no chances, sit back and wait for your stronger opponent to make a couple of mistakes. On the old excitement scale, this style of hockey ranks right up there with watching someone drive the Zamboni around the ice. But then again, that style of hockey won a Stanley Cup for Montreal back in 1986. And it worked pretty well for Hartford in the first game, despite the fact that they lost. Hartford taking it to Montreal a little bit more in this game, at least early, with a couple of big hits. Midway through the first, Montreal power play, and Denny Savard setting up Brent Gilchrist. It's 1-0. Hartford catching a break late in the first. John Cullen's shot goes off of Daigneault's stick and in past Patrick Roy. It's 1-1. Cheap shot of the night. Shane Corson, wicked elbow on Doug Huda. Midway through the second, Savard carries it in to Gilchrist for his second of the night. 2-1 Montreal. And still in the second, Montreal up 3-1, but Randy Cunneyworth, look at this. One times it past Roy. Hartford trails 3-2. Late in the period, Savard to Patrice Brisebois, and his shot is tipped by Guy Carbonneau. It's 4-2 Montreal. And Montreal shutting down the Whale in the third, but Hartford going down fighting in this one. Hartford playing a little bit more aggressively, but actually they weren't quite as successful as they were in the first game. They only lost the first one 2-0. They lose this one by a score of 5-2. John Cullen and Randy Cunneyworth scoring for Hartford. Brent Gilchrist had a couple for Montreal. Kirk Muller, Guy Carbonneau, Eric Desjardins also scoring. Denny Savard, though, huge night. He assisted on each of Montreal's first 6 goals in the series. The only one he didn't was Desjardins' empty netter. That came at the end of tonight's game. Buffalo playing Boston. Great game here. You just saw the end of it moments ago. We'll bring you right up to date and show you the complete highlights. Dave Poulin, breakaway, and Draper, huge stop. Bruins open the scoring later on. Bork to Joe Gino on the power play. And he beats Draper. That's his first NHL playoff goal, 1-0 Boston. Moments later, Dave Reed with a wrist shot. And it's 2-0 Boston after 1. Second period, Sabres get one back. Dea Howardchuk with a shot here. LaFontaine tips it home, 2-1, Buffalo trails. Third period, now the game is tied at 2, and Ray Bork from his own blue line catches Draper, getting a new stick, and Draper with those cat-like reflexes. Look at the shots on goal in overtime. The Bruins with a huge advantage, and they scored right off the face-off. Now that happened so quickly, we'll show it to you again. Off the draw, the puck is dropped, and look at Oates. One times it against LaFontaine, right off the face-off. I think he hit that puck even before it hit the ice, and he totally caught Draper and the Buffalo centerman, Pat LaFontaine, napping. Boston win it in OT. The final is 3-2. LaFontaine and Presley scoring for Buffalo. Juno, Reed, and Adam Oates with the winner in overtime for the Bruins, and this series is all tied up.
Former Calgary Flames coach Terry Crisp has been known to call...
Today on Sports Desk, the Canucks face the White Wave in Winnipeg. Dave Steve returns to the mound and attempts to scalp the Tribe. And a great outing by El Presidente, but is it enough to beat the Bucks?
Sports Desk is brought to you by Makita Canada Incorporated, Canada's leading manufacturer of professional power tools.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Also ahead, White Sox shortstop Ozzie Guillen is done for the year. We have the story. We've also got all the news from the NBA as everyone gets ready for the postseason. But first to the Campbell Conference playoffs. You know, had Winnipeg not had so many injuries this year, we probably would have seen them finish higher than fourth in the Smythe. They really began to come on in the final stretch and finished with the third-best defense in the league. Could they carry it into the playoffs against Vancouver? Well, what we've seen so far from the Jets, the answer seems to be yes. This game started out a little physical. First period, Sergio Momesso tries to rough up Mike Eagles. Now, midway through the period, the Jets open the scoring. Randy Carlyle blasts one through Kirk McLean. Good to see him still out on the ice. 1-0 Winnipeg. Benny the Jet loves it. Midway through the period, Pavel Bure with some slick moves, but Rick Tabaracci, he makes a stick save. Now, time is running out in the first. Jets on the power play. Pat Eleanor's centering pass goes off of Doug Lidster and through McLean. And Pat Quinn's team trailing 2-0 after one. Second period, tempers flare. After Igor Ulanov took out Cliff Rotting, Trevor Linden mashes him into the boards. So seconds later, Linden punches Ulanov again. Ulanov starts yapping at the ref, arguing for a penalty. So then he decides to stalk Jeff Courtnall, spears him. Courtnall goes down. Ulanov got a double game misconduct. He is going to sit out game 4. Well, Tabaracci outstanding in goal for Winnipeg. He denies the Canucks 4 big stops in Vancouver. The Canucks scored a couple of goals late in the third, but Winnipeg hung on for a 4-2 lead. So scoring for the Jets, Carlyle, Eleanuk, Deblois, and Steen for Vancouver, Kron and Sandluck. So the Jets take a 2-1 lead in the Smythe semi against the Canucks.
The first 2 periods sure weren't pretty. They threw us off our game, which we played right into their hands, basically. You know, going into the third, we knew we had to wake up, and you know, we did in a sense, but you know, it's just a little too late.
They're a good defensive squad. We got that shorthanded one, and that kind of lifted us up a little bit. And we got the next one, and you know, all of a sudden, I guess maybe Winnipeg's saying, geez, you know, this game isn't over, and we're trying to battle back. And we had quite a few good scoring opportunities at the end, but we can't afford to get down 4-0 for this team.
We played a very strong game from start to finish. We let up a little bit in the third period, which enabled them to, you know, get some goals back. But other than that, we played a very solid 60 minutes. I think everybody should be proud of the way they played tonight.
Oh, they were outstanding. I was getting a little lonely back there for a while. They did such an incredible job. I mean, they're standing guys up. They really didn't even give Vancouver a chance to get into our zone, which is a tribute to them. They're doing a heck of a job back there, and it's great to play for a team that's playing that defensive-minded.
The Edmonton Oilers were glad to get back to Northlands Coliseum for Game 3 of their series against the Kings. Back home, the Oilers felt that they could grab the edge in this series if they went back to playing better defense and quit taking bad penalties. They'd also have to stop 3 former Oilers, Gretzky, Curry, and Coffey together, have scored 90 more playoff points in their careers than the entire Edmonton roster. Big numbers. First period, John McIntyre gives it to Dave Taylor in front of the net. Puts it in past Ranford, and the Kings have got a 1-0 lead. Later on in the period, McIntyre at it again. This time he sets up Jay Miller. He lets the quick wrist shot go, and LA has grabbed a 2-0 lead in the game. The Oilers decided to put Kelly Buchberger on Wayne Gretzky, and he does a great job shadowing the Great One. And the Oilers start to turn things around. The Oilers on the power play. Kelly Rudy with the saves on Murphy, then on Tikkanen, but Nichols finally swats it in. Oilers trailing by a goal. On to the third period, Kings leading 3-2. Joe Murphy with a backhand. Greg Hoggood, Vincent Damphousse, they get the assist. And that ties the score up at 3. Later on in the period, Nichols from the face-off circle. First shot stopped, but gets his own rebound, puts it in the net, and the Oilers go on to win the final in the game 4-3. Scoring for the Oilers on the evening, Nichols with 2. Also scoring was Domfus, Joe Murphy with a goal and 2 assists on the night. For the Kings, it was Dave Taylor, Jay Miller, and Luc Robitaille. Imagine how frustrating it must be for Detroit. The 3rd best season in franchise history, the best since 1950-51. But so far against Minnesota, nothing. A lousy power play, no forechecking, nothing. Detroit's top gunner, Steve Yzerman, he only had 1 goal after 2 games, so maybe it was time to get something going. First period, Stevie Y with a good scoring chance, but John Casey comes up big. No score in the game. North Stars get on the board early. Mike Modano gets in alone, hits the top drawer, and Minnesota's leading 1-0. 2-0 Stars now. Sergei Fedorov gets his second shorthanded breakaway goal of the series. Yzerman comes up with the assist, and the Wings are trailing 2-1. On to the second. Minnesota scores 2 in a row. The second goal coming on this bellow shot. Cheveldae looking a little shaky, so Cheveldae came out. Vincent Riendo went in. Late in the second, Red Wings pull to within 1. Jimmy Carson scores a disputed goal. The goal light doesn't come on, but it counts. 4-3 Stars after 2. Late in the third period, the Wings are on the power play. Ray Shepherd bats the puck out of midair. That ties the game up at 4. Yzerman with 2 assists so far. Into overtime. A long goal scored from the blue line. Yves Racine with a blast. And that ends it. The Red Wings win 5-4. Big win for Detroit. Scoring for the Red Wings, it was Fedorov, Lidstrom, Carson, Shepherd, and Racine. The game winner, Minnesota, Modano, Gagne, Broughton, and Bellows. And the Stars, they still lead the series 2-1, but could the Red Wings be on their way back? Going into their series against St. Louis, the Blackhawks looked good to advance if Ed Belfour remained hot in net. Well, Belfour simmered, then he seemed to chill out Monday night. He gave up 4 goals on 11 shots, then left the game after banging his head on the crossbar. Belfour looked fine Wednesday night, but he began the game on the bench. Dominic Hasek was the starter for the Hawks. First period, Nelson Emerson picks up the loose puck. He goes in, beats Hasek, a power play goal. Brett Hall with the assist. Blues are up 1-0. Blackhawks have got 2 men in the penalty box. Mike Keenan wants to rest his penalty killers. Out comes Hasek, in comes Belfour. Didn't work out for Keenan, though. Emerson picks up his second. Hall gets another assist. You know, the goalies have switched in and out 3 times. Hawks score on the power play. Keith Brown whips one over to Jeremy Romanuk, and he will one time at home. But the Blues still lead 2-1. Hawks are coming back. Less than a minute to go in the first. Igor Kravchuk with a big blast from the point. This one gets past Joseph. It was 3-2 Hawks after a period. On to the third. Blues looking for the equalizer. Garth Butcher scores his first of the series. Brett Hall picks up his 3rd assist on the night. And that ties the score up at 4. So into overtime we go. Hall with a great burst of speed. Hasek makes the save on Hall. Then Bob Basson on the rebound. There was no score in the first overtime. They had to go to a second. Now we'll see Ron Sutter feeding it to Basson. Leaves it for Brett Hall, and Hall goes in to beat Hasek between the legs. The Blues win in double overtime. The final was 5-4. So scoring for the Blues, Emerson with a pair. Also scoring Christian, Butcher, and Hall for Chicago. It was Romanuk, Hudson, Kravchuk, and Graham. And the Blues take a 2-1 series lead. Well, we were treated to the White Wave in Winnipeg. Full houses in Edmonton and St. Louis. But unless there is a last-minute rush, it's going to look awfully empty in Hartford Thursday night. They're only expecting 6,000 people for the game, and if it happens, it'll be their smallest playoff crowd ever. The Montreal Canadiens lead the Whalers 2-0 in this series. When John Cullen heard the news, he said, maybe we don't deserve fans right now. Quebec General Manager Pierre Pagé has laid his draft picks out on the table. Pagé said that he is ready to talk trade with any team if it means getting some experienced players to help the team now. He didn't say whether or not those picks included Eric Lindros, but maybe Eric would like to play in Tampa Bay with the Lightning. If he plays there next year, he'll be playing home games in the Florida State Fairgrounds Expo Hall. The Lightning have signed a lease to play at least 2 seasons there while their new home is being built. The Expo Hall holds just over 10,000 people, and they still have to put in some ice-making equipment. Well, that wraps up the night's story in hockey. We're going to take a short break here.
Tonight on Sports Desk, On the rise, Mario Lemieux tries to lead the Penguins back. On the ball, the Blue Jays close out their series with the Indians. And on the bench, Larry Bird sits out the Celtics playoff opener.
Is brought to you by Gillette Sensor for the best shave a man can get, and by Makita Canada Incorporated, Canada's leading manufacturer of professional power tools.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Sports Desk. I'm Gord Miller, along with Teresa Hergert. Hope you're having a good night, whatever you've been up to. Also coming up for the next half hour, Team Canada leaves for the World Hockey Championships, and 2 NBA coaches get dealt the 9 of hearts. But up first, night 6 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and the spotlight shifts back to the series in the Wales Conference.
Let's get going. Well, the Washington Capitals were looking to put a lock on their series against Pittsburgh tonight. They led the defending Stanley Cup champions 2-0. With the Penguins' top gunner Mario Lemieux hurting, Joe Mullen, Jaromir Jagr slumping, it would take a little more than luck for them to get back into this series. It took some hard work, and it paid off. At the beginning, Kevin Hatcher and the Caps looking to go up 3-0. First period, Caps scores shorthanded. Mike Ridley to Hatcher, and he scores. Washington is up 1-0. Then this man took over, Mario the Magnificent, they call him. First, he set up Phil Bourque in front of the Caps net. And as it goes in, ties the game up at 1. On to the second period, Caps are leading 2-1. Lemieux sets up Joey Mullen. Mullen scores. And that ties it up at 2. Well, then number 66 sets up Jaromir Jagr, a slap shot past Beaupre. And the score, those, Washington up 3-2. Same period, Lemieux decides to shoot, and a great shot. 4 points at this point for Mario, and it was 4-2 Pittsburgh in the second. Late second, well, what else can Mario do? Well, he scores another goal. 2 goals, 3 assists, as Pittsburgh goes on to win it 6-4. Well, maybe Joey Mullen and Jaromir Jagr and Mario Lemieux have snapped out of it. Maybe they're on their way, but the Caps do lead the series 2-1. Taking a look at the goal scorers, it was Hatcher with a pair, Kristich and Iafredi for the Caps for Pittsburgh, Bourque, Mullen, Jagr, Mario Lemieux with 3 goals and 3 assists.
Well, as that Hoboken, New Jersey native Frank Sinatra likes to sing, I've got you under my skin. It's appropriate for current New Jersey resident Claude Lemieux, who put New York Ranger captain Mark Messier off his game in the first 2 meetings of the series. Messier had scored a pair of shorthanded goals, but more often than not, he had been preoccupied with the pesky Lemieux, a major reason the series went across the Hudson River, tied at a game apiece. So let's pick it up as we go to the Meadowlands, where Mike Richter gets the start in favor of John Van Beesbroek on this one. Doesn't make a difference, though. Claude Lemieux to Stephane Richer, the 2 former Habs combined to make it 1-0 New Jersey. The Rangers come right back on the power play. Tony Amonte to Mark Messier, who has the wide open net, his 3rd of the series, ties the game at 1. Rangers continue to try throwing their weight around. Jeff Bukaboom tees up Eric Weinrich. Late in the period, a controversial goal. Peter Stastny with the shot. Now watch Scott Stevens bat it in. Was it a high stick or a slash? Well, they reviewed it on video, said it should count. Mark Messier didn't like that call very much, but his team trailed 2-1. Second period, Devils strike again. Claude Vilgrain with the weak shot, and Richter lets it beat him. 3-1 Devils. Third period now, and Devil fans start getting on their New York cousins. Yes, it has been a long time, hasn't it? And Chris Terreri backs up their talk with some great action in the net. Great stop at the start of the period, robbing Darren Turcotte. Later in the third, Sergei Nemchinov lets the blast go. Terreri gets a piece, and Bruce Driver clears it away. Hey, the Devils win this one 3-1. Well, maybe she's just warming up, but New Jersey wins it by a count of 3-1 to take a 2-1 lead in the series. Messier for the Rangers, Richer, Stevens, and Vilgrain for the Devils.
It was a pretty sorry sight in Hartford as the Whalers continued their series against the Canadiens. The Civic Center looked empty. There were only 6,700 people who came out for the game. Well, Whalers center John Cullen might have hit the problem on the head yesterday when he said, maybe this team doesn't deserve fans. The Whalers were clearly behind the 8 ball as they took to the ice tonight against Montreal. There were empty seats everywhere. The top part of the center not even full. Maybe that sign said it all, and maybe it got the Whalers going. They took the physical approach. Gilbert Dion, the recipient of some abuse. Montreal opens the scoring. Patrice Brisebois has got his shot deflected by a Whaler. And Montreal is up 1-0. Second period, Hartford ties it on the power play. Murray Craven to Zarli Zalapski and ties the game up at 1. Then while shorthanded, Craven gets the puck and he tucks it in past Patrick Roy. 2-1 Hartford. And over on the Montreal bench, Pat Burns was left shaking his head. The Whalers' game plan seemed to be shoot high on Roy. Robert Holik rings it off of Roy's jaw. That's one way to make a save. Late in the second, the Habs get sloppy in their own end. John Cullen, he swoops in and then scores on the wraparound. And Hartford's got a 3-1 lead. In the third period, Hartford does not let up. They've got a 2-on-1. Craven drills it to the short side and puts the Whalers up 4-1. Later on in the third, Pat Verbeek passes it to Patrick Poulin, and he banks a shot in off the post. And that was all. 5-1 for Hartford. Montreal added another, but it wasn't enough. 5-2. And boy, those 6,700 fans in Hartford were happy. Scoring for Montreal, Brisebois and Lebeau for Hartford. Craven with a pair, Zalapski, Cullen, and Poulin.
The other Adams Division semifinal moved from one small rink, the Boston Garden, to another, the Odd in Buffalo. The close quarters have resulted in close games, a one-goal victory for each team, and even though the series was tied at a game apiece, many fans, especially those in Buffalo, have been calling for an early end to the Boston season, but rumors of the Bruins' death have been greatly exaggerated. Bruins all over them in the first. Glenn Murray with the puck to Ted Donato, who puts the move on Tom Draper. 1-0 Bruins. Boston playing tough. Rob Ray gets sandwiched behind the net. That fan in Quebec will be happy to hear that. A little revenge after Ray pummeled him last week. Midway through the first, great chance for Pat LaFontaine in alone, but his shot goes off Moog and into the crowd. Late in the period, Bruins on the power play. Joe Gino to Ray Bork. And Bork fires it home. 2-0 Boston. Buffalo rallies in the second. Scramble around Andy Moog. Randy Wood chips in the rebound. Moog had been knocked off his game a bit, didn't like the goal. Sabres trailed 2-1. Later on now, Sabres on the power play. Dale Hawerchuk with the perfect feed to Pat LaFontaine on the doorstep. He keeps pumping him into the playoffs. Game tied at 2. With time running out in the second, momentum shifts back to the Bruins. Adam Oates gets his third of the series. Man, has he scored big goals. 3-2 Boston. Sabres look for the equalizer in the third. Off the shoot-in, Mike Ramsey feeds Wayne Presley, but Andy Moog makes the big save in front. Bruins hang on to win. Familiar score, 3-2. That's been the score in all three of the games in the series. Donato, Bork, and Oates for the Bruins, Wood and LaFontaine for the Sabres. And hey, the Bruins, don't leave them for dead. They lead this series 2-1.
The Tampa Bay Lightning finally ended all the speculation today and named Terry Crisp as their new head coach. Crisp guided the Calgary Flames to the Stanley Cup back in 1989, and he's got the highest winning percentage among all active NHL coaches. Well, when Crisp coached in Calgary, he was often criticized for his temper and his exuberance behind the bench and in the dressing room. Crisp recently said that he's calmed down a bit, but he sure hasn't lost his enthusiasm for the game.
The team that's coming into Tampa Bay will be an exciting team. They will not lack for effort because of the people that are running the organization, Phil, Tony, and myself, and anybody else involved. Is that the one thing that we do ask is give an effort. The rest will all fall into place.
Team Canada left today for the World Hockey Championships in Prague. As usual, the story with this.
Coming up on Sports Desk, put your game face on Day 7 of the NHL playoffs. The Blue Jays sink their teeth into the wounded Kansas City Royals. And even Horace Grant marvels at the work of Michael Jordan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Gino Reda. It is nice to have you here. You know, there's an interesting situation developing in the NHL playoffs. Two underdogs in the Campbell Conference Series have now taken 3-1 leads and are on the verge of upsets. Winnipeg led the Canucks 2-1. Game 4 was in the Sea of White at the Winnipeg Arena. Interesting call by the Jets coach John Paddock. He started Rick Tabaracci in all of their playoff games so far, despite the fact that Bob Essenza had most of the success during the regular season. But the hunch was based on the fact that Tabaracci had played so well against the Canucks. And the hunch has panned out so far. Great crowd on hand at the Winnipeg Arena. The sea of white to welcome the Jets. And this is a physical affair here. Jim Sandlak lays out Eddie Olchuk into the glass. That's not good for his sore back. First period, Jets open the scoring. Frederick Olofsson to Evgeny Davidov. He drills the bullet by Kurt McLean, and it's 1-0 Winnipeg. Rick Tabaracci, his 4th consecutive starting goal in these playoffs. Started every game. Watch here as he dives across the net. Cliff Ronning looks, sees the open net. Ronning the shot, and Tabaracci gloves it. 1-0 Jets after 20 minutes of play. Brian Mulrooney having a great time in the crowd. Second period action. Jets strike again. Phil Housley's shot from the point somehow finds the net. Great screen in front. 2-0 Winnipeg. Things could have been worse for Vancouver if not for McLean's great goaltending. He just burns Phil Housley from in close. Still 2-0 Jets after 2 periods. Third period. Jets strike early. Thomas seen in the right place, the right time. He slides in the loose puck, and it's 3-0 Jets. Later in the period, 3-1 Jets. Rick Tabaracci shuts the door. Sergio Momesso out in front. Turned away. Winnipeg pounds Vancouver in a sea of white. Final score 3-1, and the Jets now lead that series 3-1. The only goal scorer for Vancouver, Fergus. For Winnipeg, Davidov, Housley, and Steen. And the Jets say it is just plain hard work.
We're not a very greedy team. We have to work for everything we get, and you know, they might say the 4th one's the toughest. You know, we just want to sit back and collect our thoughts, and we have to have a strong game at Vancouver because we know they're going to be ready.
I think we feel pretty good about our game, and really we should. I mean, it's been phenomenal playing back there for those guys. They're just playing a great style of playoff hockey, and very defensive, and it's certainly paying off.
You know, it's very disappointing. We're working hard. We're trying as hard as we can. I think we're just not finishing. We're not concentrating, I guess.
They're playing pretty darn well as a team, so you know you have to give them a little credit for us stumbling a little bit. But you know it isn't over yet, and hell, we got another game. We're gonna have to beat us in Vancouver.
Elsewhere, injuries are a big part of the story in the LA-Edmonton series right now. Yari Curry and Larry Robinson are both out of the night's action because of ankle injuries. And the Oilers be without Craig Simpson and Anatoly Semenov for the remainder of their opening round series. But the really big story in this series so far is the fact that Wayne Gretzky has been held scoreless so far. Gretzky still looking for his first goal of the series. Early on, he's got a chance, but Bill Ranford comes up with a big grab. Still in the first. Oilers get on the board. Peter Klima digs it out of the corner, centers to Scott Mellenby, who is alone in the slot. Mellenby puts it in the wide open net, 1-0 for the Oilers. Second period, game tied at 1. Dave Manson picks up the puck at center ice, in over the blue line. The shot just inside the far post. Oilers led 2-1. Third period, game tied at 2 now. Gretzky teams up with Coffey again. Gretzky to Coffey, blasts it, one-timer, his second goal in a row. And it's 3-2 for the Kings. L.A. goes up by a pair. Kings all around Bill Ranford. Luc Robitaille slides in the loose puck. 4-2 Kings at that point. Oilers pulled it within 1 when Vincent Damphousse whacks at the puck in front of the net. Looks like Nichols put it in, but Damphousse actually got credit. 4-3 L.A. at that point, and that is the final score. L.A. over Edmonton, 4-3. Robitaille, Coffey with a pair. Actually, Robitaille and Coffey both had a pair for L.A., and for Edmonton, it was Mellenby, Manson, and Vincent Damphousse. This series all even up at 2 games apiece. All right, so what's going on with the North Stars? That's probably the most asked question in the playoffs so far. How does Bob Gainey get so much out of a mediocre team in the playoffs? That's a puzzle Brian Murray would love to solve. Minnesota in position to take a 3-1 stranglehold on Detroit in their best-of-7 series. With the Wings so frustrated, Game 4 got to be a little bit of a physical affair. Sergei Fedorov knocked onto the ice. Mark Bureau temporarily just loses it. Steve Yzerman gets pummeled, and Bob Probert, look at the look on his face. You'd hate to be facing him on the night. Detroit opens the scoring. Probert deflects the shot. Ray Shepard is there for the rebound, puts it in, and the Wings take a 1-0 lead. Later in the first, game's tied at 1. Detroit breaks another 2-on-1. Shepard keeps in. Makes Casey look bad there. Great-looking goal. 2-1 for the Wings. Second period is 3-1 for the Wings. The puck is chipped in. Bobby Dallas misplays it. Mike Modano falling to the ice, slides it in. 3-2 for the Red Wings. Wings get their 2-goal lead back. Shepard in on goal. Casey stops him, but Shepard throws it out in front, and Casey kicks it into his own net. 4-2 Detroit. Late in the second, 4-3 Wings. Brian Bellows walks out in front, gets a couple of whacks at it, puts it in. 4-4 after 2. Third period, they complete the comeback. Wings fail to clear their own zone. Craig Ludwig's shot is tipped by Todd Ellick. No chance for Cheveldae. 5-4 for the North Stars at that point. Minnesota leads the best-of-7 series, 3-1 over Detroit. Minnesota doing it again. The Red Wings outshot the Stars 40-29, but still lost the game. Shepard with the hat trick and chase on for Detroit. For Minnesota, Tenorti, Modano, Shaw, Bellows, and Ellick. And now the Blackhawks and the Blues. Big hit early in this game. It happens to involve a pair of Blues. Jeff Brown and Brett Hedigan go head-to-head. Blues open the scoring, though. Great passing on the power play. Janney to Shanahan to Hall into the wide-open cage, beating Belfour, and it's 1-0 St. Louis. Late in the first, 1-1 tie. Steve Smith winds it up. Brent Sutter tips it in, and it's 2-1 for the Blackhawks. Early in the second, Stéphane Matteau breaks in on the breakaway, in over the blue line, short-handed, and scores. Hawks go up 3-1. Curtis Joseph having a good night, making a good glove save here on Jocelyn Lemieux. The splits and stop. That spurs his teammates on. St. Louis rallies for a couple of goals. Hall to Shanahan. Wide open cage. Ties the game at 3. Third period. Jeremy Romanuk with the spinorama. Great move. The shot is stopped. Brian Noonan, the rebound. Off the crossbar, then bats it in. 4-3 for the Blackhawks. Chicago puts it on ice, so to speak. Steve Larmer to Mike Hudson. Hudson in alone. Goes to the backhand. Puts it in and wraps it up. Blackhawks win this one 5-3. The series all tied up at 2 games apiece. For the Hawks, it was Romanuk, Sutter, Matteau, Noonan, and Hudson. For St. Louis, it was Hull, Shanahan, and Giles. The Hawks outshot the Blues 37-19. Professional hockey is finally coming to Hamilton. They've tried for...
Coming up on Sports Desk, the Canadiens lose their cool as they get frustrated by the Whalers. The Jays continue their winning ways as the Royals boot another chance to win. And the birdless Celtics try to go 2-up in their NBA series.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Gino Reda. It is nice to have you here. Day 8 of the NHL playoffs, the Campbell Conference with the night off. Canucks and Red Wings are on the verge of elimination, and now 2 Wales Conference teams are also just one more loss from pulling out the golf clubs for the summer. Many thought the Whalers would be packing for the offseason after Saturday night's action. Montreal in 4. Seemed like a good bet. Now even Montreal in 5 is out of the question. Dump and chase. It's not exactly exciting hockey, but with Hartford making things as difficult for Montreal as they have been, you would think that more than 11,000 Whaler fans would have shown up, but that's about it. The Whalers' tenacity got to the Canadiens, even getting to Patrick Roy. Look at a slash. Ensuing power play, Montreal's cut out of position. Murray Craven to Yvan Corvo, who one time had passed Roy. Roy pays for the slash. 1-0 Hartford. Todd Ewan injected to the Habs lineup. He belts John Cullen as he steps out of the penalty box. Cullen never saw him coming. Second period, more lack of discipline by the Habs. Doug Huda elbows Ewan. The referee doesn't see it. Ewan goes back and punches Huda. The referee sees this. Another Whaler power play. Hartford converts on his chance again. Corvo goes to Randy Cunneyworth, who is all alone. This will just trickle in over the goal line, and it gives Hartford a 2-0 lead. Still in the second, great chance for Guy Carbonneau. And Peter Angelo comes up with a big stop. One of just 12 shots for the Habs through 2 periods. Habs dominate the third. Kurt Muller twists and tips it in. High stick. Referee says no. Goal is good, but that was it. They believe in Whalerland as Hartford dumps Montreal 3-1 and evens a series at 2 apiece. It was Kurt Muller for the Habs. For Hartford, it was Corvo, Cunneyworth, and Murray Craven. Attendance, 10,071. Brutal. On to the Sabres hosting the Bruins. Pick it up. Game tied at 1. Buffalo on the power play. Pat LaFontaine will let the shot go, beating Moog, and it's 2-1 for the Sabres. Boston storms back, though, with a pair of goals. The second coming when Gord Murphy skates in, puts it upstairs, knocks the water bottle up, beating Draper 3-2 Bruins. At the end of the first period, Andy Moog, watch this. Boom, hits LaFontaine. Come on, barely touched him, takes a big dive, brutal. Boston opens a 2-goal lead. Former Canadian Olympian Joe Gino slides it in, 4-2 Boston. After the Sabres tie it up, play gets a little chippy. Steve Leach gives Dale Howardchuk a facial with the stick. An ugly incident. Howardchuk with the badly bleeding face Nobody saw it. Nothing was called, though. No penalties. They went into overtime where Ted Donato slides it in. Once again, Boston beats the Sabres in overtime. 5-4 the final score. In this one, it was Wesley, Oates, Murphy, Gino, and Donato. The winner for Boston for Buffalo. Howard, Chuck, LaFontaine, Andrew, Chuck, and Presley is second. The Bruins lead the series now 3-1. If you had to give a goaltending edge to either the Rangers or the Devils before their series, you would likely have gone with New York. It would have been hard to imagine the tandem of Terreri and Brodeur upstaging Van Beesbroek and Richter. But that's exactly what's been happening. Chris Terreri has led the Devils to a 2-1 lead in their series with the New York Rangers, and Terreri is tested early in this game. Tony Monte with a backhand. Terreri gets just enough of it to knock it over the net. Later in the period, Zeno Seagar with the backhand hits the crossbar. Game scoreless after one. Second period, Mike Richter makes the stop on Tom Chorsky in close, gets back up, centering pass to Vilgrain and stops Vilgrain as well. No score so far. Third period, Mark Messier slides across to Jan Eriksson. Agerson slides it in. Eriksson's goal gives the Rangers a 1-0 lead. Later in the period, Paul Broughton, Chris Kinn break in on the 2-on-1. Broughton keeps in, slides and beats Terreri. 2-0 Rangers at that point. They'd add another. And even the series of 2 games apiece with a 3-0 victory over the Devils. For the Rangers, it was Eriksson, Broughton, and Gartner. Richter made 33 stops in this game. He was the story in Game 4. Now to the Capitals and Penguins. Caps off to a quick start just over 4 minutes in. Todd Grieger takes a shot from the tough angle. Looks like Barrasso's got the angles cut off, but somehow it goes in. 1-0 Washington. Then just a few minutes later, the Capitals show some nice passing. It's Kelly Miller to Mike Ridley to Dino Cicerelli, who slides it in, and it's 2-0 Washington. Other end of the ice, Don Beaupre, red hot. A couple of big stops right here. First of all, Mario Lemieux from the tough angle is stopped. Rebound out to Stevens. Stevens stopped. Good effort by Beaupre. To the third, 3-0 Capitals. Mario Lemieux takes the lead pass from Jaromir Jagr and then beats Barrasso upstairs. Penguins trail by 2. Later in the third, Capitals led 5-1. Dino Cicerelli with 2 goals already makes it a hat trick as he beats Reda with a good move. He would add another, and Dino Cicerelli leads the Capitals with 4 goals to a 7-2 victory over the Penguins. Krieger, Kristich, and Bondra rounded the scoring for the Caps. For Pittsburgh, it was Lemieux and Trottier. The Caps now lead the series 3-1. The Campbell Conference will get back to work on Sunday night, and the Canucks better get to work quickly. They can't afford a slow start. Vancouver trails 3-1 in their series with the Jets. With a look ahead, here's David Pratt.
If the regular season was the best of times for the Vancouver Canucks, then surely the playoffs are the worst of times. The Canucks are now down 3-1 to the Winnipeg Jets, and as frustrated and angry as head coach Pat Quinn is with the performance of his team, he is equally as frustrated and angry with the officiating that he has seen during the series.
Interestingly, most often it was the interferer that ended up drawing a penalty. Amazingly, on Pavel, it was kind of a joke, and I mean, it's interesting to watch a guy that uses ice the way he does be interfered with, as he has been, and yet he's got 8 minutes in penalties, and there hasn't been one called against him. I mean, that's kind of to me, a joke.
As for the Jets, their ability to frustrate the Canucks on the ice is only matched by their ability to do little or nothing to upset the Canucks off the ice.
Same way, one more game. We're up 3-1, but still lots of hockey to be played, and the Winnipeg Jets are going to play the same way, the boring defensive style that we've played pretty much all season, and try to capitalize on our opportunities.
And do the talking on the ice.
That's the only way to do it.
In the meantime, the Canucks are left to deal with the hard reality that their season, as good as it has been, could be just about over.
Seems like the harder we work, the harder we bang at the door, there's just no opening of that door. So, you know, it's something that we've got to take a step back maybe and have a look at what we can do differently. I mean, obviously the things we've been doing the last 2 nights haven't worked, and we've got to change some things. So, you know, I mean, it's long from over yet.
Whatever the problem or problems are, the Canucks will have to correct them, and correct them no later than Sunday, or here on the West Coast, it will indeed be a long, hot summer. David Pratt, TSN, Vancouver.
And like Vancouver, Detroit was heavily favored to get out of the first round. Coming up on Sports Desk, it's crunch time for the Canucks as they try to extend their playoff series with the Jets.
The Blue Jays ace gets lost in the shuffle against the Kansas City Royals. And no drama, but big bucks at the annual NFL Draft.
Sports Desk, brought to you by Le Mans, offering European styling at an affordable price. Available at your Pontiac Buick GMC dealership.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Gino Reda. It is nice to have you here. Day 9 of the NHL playoffs. And two teams, it's the most important night so far. The first night, the teams may begin to fall off of the playoff parade. The Red Wings and Canucks both had big hopes, and now both on the precipice of big falls. But the Canucks did rise to the occasion. Vancouver needed to win, and they needed to win in convincing fashion so they could restore some of the confidence they had lost in the earlier part of the series. They also wanted to rattle Rick Tabaracci. He's been terrific in goal for the Jets. Vancouver attained all of their goals on Sunday night. The aggressive Canucks come out smoking. Watch this big hit. Jim Sandlak dumps Evgeny Davidov right into the camera. Rick Tabaracci, Friday, how'd he do? Well, on Sunday, not so well. The answer is not so well at all. Pavel Bure, pitching a loose puck, beats Tabaracci, a weak one. Canucks led 1-0. Seconds left in the period. Bure breaks his stick. Sandlak redirects it. You can't blame Tabaracci on that. 2-0 for the Canucks after one. Second period, 3-0 Vancouver leading. Nedved, great effort, beats Tabaracci. And with that, Tabaracci is out. And for the first time in the series, Bob Essenza gets the nod. 4-0 Vancouver leading. Vancouver still rolling. Doug Litzler, the one-timer from the slot, gives Vancouver a 6-0 lead. And it looks like we're going back to Winnipeg for Game 6 in this series. In the third period, great pass right on the stick of Jeff Courtnall. Courtnall breaks in behind 3 Jets and beats Bob Essenza. And the series now goes back to Winnipeg for Game 6 on Tuesday. Vancouver 8-2 winners. The Jets still lead the series 3-2. Goal scorers Olczyk and Broughton for Winnipeg. For Vancouver, Sandlak with a pair. Bure, Babic, Lume, Nedved, Litzler, and Courtnall. The win marks a new beginning for Vancouver.
The Vancouver Canucks are now very much alive in their series with the Winnipeg Jets. The Canucks dropped the Jets by a score of 8-2 and now trail in the series 3-2.
We've got life for another day. We've got to go in and win in that building, and we haven't been very good in there up to this point. And with the great crowd that they have, we're going to have to play as well or better than we did here tonight.
We came back with a big effort. We needed that. We played pretty hard, throughout the series, and we've been having some tough luck. But we kept plugging. We're still behind. We got to go into Winnipeg and come out with the same type of effort. It's not going to be easy, believe me. They're going to be ready.
I think right now going into Winnipeg, it's the pressure's on them right now. They got to win 2 games, and we're looking forward to it. It's a real nice feeling coming back to Vancouver here. The fans are behind us 100%, and they're going to be behind us watching on TV when we go to Winnipeg.
Although this victory is a serious step in the right direction for the Vancouver Canucks, they still have a number of challenges left in front of them before they have a real reason to celebrate. The next challenge will come in Winnipeg Tuesday night. David Pratt, TSN, Vancouver.
Thanks very much, David. LA fans dancing, hoping to bring Kings some good luck. Bill Ranford looks good early here. He comes up with a big stop on Tony Granato. No score after one, early second period. Esa Tikkanen takes the puck, steps in over the blue line, lets the shot go, beats Kelly Rudy long range. Oilers take a 1-0 lead. Still in the second, the Kings with the pressure on. Watch this. Granato has a chance, stop. Robitaille chance, stop. Gretzky a chance, just crosses the goal line. Ranford says, come on, guys, help me out here. Game tied at 1. Gretzky gets a second of the night. Kings on the power play. He tees it up in the face-off circle, scores. Just trickles over the goal line. It's 2-1 for the Kings. Now to the third period. Game tied at 2. Esa Tikkanen gets a second of the game. Blasts it. Oilers take the lead. A little later on in the game. Great team effort here. Great work by Klima. Breaks in. Kelly Rudy cuts off the angles. Klima centers and wide open net for Esa Tikkanen. You hate to even give him a goal for that. But he gets the hat trick. Tikkanen with a hat trick, leading Edmonton to a 5-2 win over L.A. The Oilers now lead the series 3-2, heading back to Northland. Tikkanen with his third playoff hat trick. Damphus and Nichols for the Oilers. For Gretzky, for L.A., it was all Gretzky. 2 goals. The Red Wings in big trouble going into Sunday's game. A loss in Detroit would bow out of the first round of the playoffs for the second season in a row. Goaltending has been a big part of their problem. Neither Tim Cheveldae or Vincent Riendo has been very solid at all. To stay alive, the Wings needed a strong performance from Cheveldae. And they also needed some help from Stevie Yzerman. Yzerman, just one goal in the playoffs to this point. First period, Wings shorthanded. Steve Chason to Steve Yzerman. Make that 2 goals in the playoffs to this point. 1-0 Detroit. Second period, Wings shorthanded. Yzerman to Mike Sillinger. The rookie is stopped by Casey. Later, Stars roughing up Stevie Yzerman. Chris Dahlquist catches Yzerman with the elbow in the head. Penalty, but did not capitalize. Still in the second, Bob Probert mixed it up with Mark Tenorti. No penalties because nothing really happened. Third period now. In the story of the game, Detroit's tight defense. This was the toughest sequence for Cheveldae on the night, and he came through with flying colors. Said they needed a big night from Cheveldae. They got a big night. Later, Detroit gets a break. Mike Sillinger down the wing, and the rookie will beat Casey this time. Casey's still looking for the puck. 2-0 for the Wings. They would add another and shut out Minnesota 3-0. Cheveldae 22 stops, his first career playoff shutout. Yzerman, Sillinger, and Carson, the goal scorers. The Stars still lead the series, but now it's just 3-2. On out of Brian Sutter and the Blues taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. Series tied at 2. And Sutter, like we saw earlier on, because Philippe Bauzon turns on the loose puck, bats it by Ed Belfour, and it's 1-0 St. Louis. Sutter didn't like this, though. Jocelyn Lemieux hammers Garth Butcher into the boards. Blues answer back when Dean McDermott gets upended with the big, can't call that a hip check, more like a knee check. With the score tied at 1, Steve Larmer redirects his shot from the point from Keith Brown right between Joseph's pads, and it's 2-1 Chicago. Blues storm back with a pair of goals. All kinds of traffic in front of the net, and look at Brett Hull. No one's on Hull. How can you leave Brett Hull alone? What, like he doesn't usually score? 3-2 St. Louis. Then with the score tied at 3, Brad Lauer with the wraparound. You got a good view of it right here, a little backhand wraparound. It goes in. 4-3 Chicago. Chicago adds a couple more, wins it 6-4. Bauzon, Hall, Shanahan, and Brown for St. Louis. For the Hawks, it was Larmer with a pair of Matteau, Lauer, Chelios, and Lemieux with 2. The Blackhawks lead the series 3-2. Chicago outshot St. Louis. Listen to this, 40-24. The Wales Conference takes center stage again on Monday night.
Coming up on Sports Desk, a couple of teams trying to bite the bullet as they fend off elimination in the NHL playoffs. It's all in the cards for Canadian wideout Ty Williams. And of course, it's Monday, time for the TSN Plays of the Week.
Sports Desk, brought to you by Le Mans, offering European styling at an affordable price. Available at your Pontiac Buick GMC dealership.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Gino Reda. It is nice to have you here. April 27th, it's the 10th day of the playoff, but not one team has been eliminated yet. Ordinarily, we'd be in the second round by now with just 8 teams left, but thanks to the strike and some tight series, 16 teams were still alive, but a couple on the edge. Who would have thought? The defending Stanley Cup champions on the edge of elimination, trailing the Capitals 3-1. The only game the Penguins won was thanks to a 6-point performance by Mario Lemieux. Game 5 Monday in Washington. Odds stacked firmly against Scotty Bowman and the Pittsburgh Penguins. But the Penguins do get off to a quick start. Brian Trottier picks up the loose puck in the goal mouth, just tips it in. His second goal of the series, and the Penguins take a 1-0 lead. Capitals tie the game. Todd Krieger on the breakaway. Krieger upstairs when Barrasso was going down. A game is tied at 1. A little later on, Al Iafrate gives the Caps the lead back again. His shot just trickles in over the goal line. 2-1 for the Caps. Great passing by Pittsburgh. Great play here by Jaromir Jagr. Spins, blind pass to Bob Airey, tucks it in, ties the game again, this time at 2. Later in the second, Larry Murphy scores on the power play, tipping it in. Penguins led after 2 periods of play, 3-2. Third period, Jagr on the breakaway, looks to lose the puck, but all he really does is fool Beaupre. I'm sure he didn't do that on purpose, but it worked nonetheless, and it kept Pittsburgh alive in the playoffs. A 5-2 victory. The Caps now lead the series 3 games to 2. Goal scorers for Pittsburgh, Airy with a pair, Trottier, Murphy, and Yager. For Washington, it was Krieger and Al Iafrate. The Devils and Rangers tied at 2. New Jersey's checking line, led by Claude Lemieux, has done an excellent job of shutting down New York's top line. Going to the night's action, the line of Mark Messier, Adam Graves, and Tony Amonte had yet to score a goal at even strength. The Rangers' leading scorer at even strength, this man, Mike Gartner. And a great night by Gartner. First period action, Gartner scores his 3rd of the series, crashes into the goalpost, but he is okay, which is a good thing because he'd score lots more. 1-0 Rangers. Still the first, Chinov sets off Gartner. His 2nd of the night, 2-0 Rangers. Second period, Devils are frustrated. They trail 3-0. Both Claude Lemieux and Peter Stastny rough up the Rangers and both get minor penalties on this single exchange. Rangers score twice on the power play. Gartner gets the hat trick. Nice pass from Leach, 4-0. Martin Brodeur entered the game. Chris Terreri gone, 5-0 Devils trailing. That stirs things up. Devils trail 5-1. Alexei Kastonov scores 5-2. Third period, Scott Stevens scores 5-3. Valery Zelepukin makes it 5-4 with this. Great comeback by the Devils. But that's as close as they'd come. Pick up the action. Rangers leading 6-5. Mark Messier over Adam Graves. Graves gets his 1st of the playoffs. He would later add his 2nd of the playoffs. And the New York Rangers defeat the New Jersey Devils by a score of 8-5. Goal scorers, Kazatonov, Todd, Stevens, Zelepukin, and Guerin for the Devils. For the Rangers, it was Gartner with the hat trick, Koser, Waite, King, and Adam Graves with his first 2 of the series. The Rangers now lead the series 3-2. The Canadiens have to be pinching themselves, checking to see if this is not all just a bad dream. Game 5 with the Whalers in the series was tied at 2. The problem? Lack of production from their snipers. Example, Russ Courtnall only had 1 shot on net in the first 4 games. Pat Burns got fed up and decided to send a message to his team, so he benched Courtnall. The message was received, and the Canadiens broke out in a big way in this game. But the Whalers did get off to the good start. First period, Randy Cunninworth, Mikael Anderson 2-on-1. Cunninworth puts it in from the side of the net. Whalers 1-0. Later in the period, Zarly Zalapski to John Cullen to Ivan Korovo, and Korovo slides it by Roy, and it's 2-0 Hartford, and Canadiens head coach Pat Burns, furious, says, come on, guys, get it together, and they do. Second period, Whalers leading 3-1. Kurt Muller is stopped by Peter Angelo, but Muller's tripped into Peter Angelo and pushes the puck into the net. Goal stands. Montreal trails 3-2. Just 36 seconds later, almost the same thing. Shane Corson is dumped. Brian Skrudling gets credit for the goal this time. Can you believe it? Game's tied at 3. Third period, Montreal leading 5-3. J.J. Dagnau's shot will be stopped. Jean Leclerc is left all alone. The backhand goes in. Habs a commanding 6-3 lead. Canadiens just explode with 5 straight goals in the second and third period as they crush the Whalers. In game number 5 by a final score of 7-4, Habs take a 3-2 series lead. Corvo with a pair, Cunninworth and Poulin. For Montreal, it was Muller with a pair, Turgeon, Skrudlin, Brisebois, Leclerc, and Shane Corson. 1983 was the last year that the Sabres got out of the first round of the playoffs. Buffalo will have to win 3 straight to avoid an early ticket home again this year. And what makes the task even more difficult is they have to win 2 of those games at the Boston Garden. But credit the Sabres for not giving up. Monday night, they took the first step on a very difficult road. And they were led on that road by Pat LaFontaine. Chance early on. Looks like he's got Moog beat, but Moog makes a stop somehow. Pretty physical affair, as you would imagine. Here, Bob Corkum sends Brett Hughes onto the ice hard. Later in the first, Buffalo in the power play. Pat LaFontaine will get his 5th of the series. The blast that just completely fools Moog. And it's 1-0 for the Sabres. Second period, Sabres add to their lead. Keith Kearney goes over to Dave Hannon, and Dave Hannon beats Moog, and it's 2-0 for the Sabres. Moog frustrated? Yeah, I think so. Watch this. First, he slaps at the back of Presley's legs. Presley finally falls to the ice. Moog's not done yet. Moog takes his stick and spears Presley in the face. The referee, linesman, everybody was watching it, so Moog gets the toss. And things got even chippier after that. Watch this. Joe Juno, left of your screen, number 49. The spear on Dave Andrechuk right in the groin. Ooh, that was a hard pill to swallow for the Bruins fans as the Sabres win at the Boston Garden by a score of 2-0. The Bruins now lead the series 3-2. The Buffalo Sabres stay alive. Tom Draper made 28 saves, recorded his first career playoff shutout. LaFontaine and Hannon, the goal scorers for the Sabres. That game, very chippy, and that kind of behavior being penalized by the NHL in these playoffs. After further review, Darian Hatcher of the North Stars is out for 3 games. The problem started in Game 4 on Friday night. Hatcher caught Detroit's Kelly Miller in the face with a stick. Watch for it right there. The stick fractured Miller's jaw and knocked out a couple of teeth. No penalty was called because the referee didn't see it happen. Miller's out indefinitely with a fractured jaw, and Hatcher, well, Hatcher's got a 3-game suspension because of it. On the other hand, the news is good for Pavel Bure. He will be ready to play in Game 6 against the Jets on Tuesday night. Rather than flying to Winnipeg with the Canucks after Sunday night's game, he stayed in Vancouver because of a stomach ailment. But after a good night's sleep, he feels a lot better and now says he is ready to go. Our women's hockey team has done it again. They've won their second.
Today on Sports Desk, the Oilers try to upend the Kings for the 3rd consecutive year. Dave Steve's second start proves less than heavenly against the Angels. And Sandy Hawley reflects on a long list of impressive credentials.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Sports Desk. I'm Chris Stevens. Also coming up in the next half hour, David Cohn flirts with a no-hit bid in New York, and all eyes are on Arazi at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. But first to the Stanley Cup playoffs, 4 teams facing elimination. The Los Angeles Kings mortgaged their future in building a Stanley Cup contender. They've given up loads of draft picks and young talent for proven veterans, hoping to cash in now and worry about tomorrow down the road. The Kings down 3-2 against the Edmonton Oilers and facing elimination Tuesday night at the Northlands Coliseum. Let's head there now for this battle, this Smythe Division battle. First period action, Oilers leading 1-0. Joseph Baranek and Dave Taylor going at each other. Then later on the same shift, Baranek spears Taylor. No penalty called. Oilers go up 2-0. Joe Murphy and Mark Lamb 2-on-1. Murphy goes to the top drawer. Edmonton looks good after 1 period. Second period now, Oilers go up by 3. Dave Maley out in front of Martin Jelena. Kings are in some serious trouble. Wayne Gretzky being closely checked. The great one gets dumped by Esa Tikkanen. Then Tikkanen on Luke Robitaille. Esa received a 2-minute minor penalty for roughhousing on this one. Third period, Oilers looking to bury the Kings. Peter Klima in all alone. Great stop by Kelly Rudy. 3-0 Oilers. Bill Ranford played very well in the night as well for Edmonton. Kings all over the Oiler net. They get a shot away. He doesn't see the shot, but makes the save anyways. Ranford and the Oilers win it 3-0 with the shutout. Bill Ranford made 26 saves for his first career NHL playoff shutout. The Oilers win it 3-0. Baranek, Murphy, Jelena scoring for Oilers. They win the series 4-2. Now talk about a royal bust. This is head-to-head now since Wayne Gretzky left the Oilers to join the Kings. Division semifinal in 1989. The Kings won it with Gretzky 4-3. But in 1990, the division final, the Oilers beat the Kings 4-0. They did the same again in the final of the division, the Smythe Division final in 1991, winning 4-2. And again this year in the division semifinal, it was the Oilers downing Gretzky and the Kings 4-2. With more now from the Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton, let's join our Ken Chilipet.
You can describe the Oilers' victory over the Los Angeles Kings a variety of ways, but probably the best description would be a total team effort. Great goalkeeping from Bill Ranford to clutch performances from the likes of a Bernie Nichols or a Peter Klima.
You know, as a new player coming here, even the last month of the season, everybody's thinking playoffs, and they're just a confident bunch of guys. And they've got so many Stanley Cup rings here, they just know what it takes to win. And just being in the dressing room and around the guys, they're talking Stanley Cup the whole time, and they know what it takes to win. And once you get 20 guys playing with a lot of confidence, they're going to be awful tough to beat.
I guess the big thing was that we kept playing hard tonight. We never came out in the third. We came out as hard as we could and tried to get something going, and again, just didn't generate it.
We had a lot of pressure on us. We were the underdogs coming in, and we really played well. And to win twice in their building, I guess, is pretty remarkable, considering the way we played there most of the year.
Tonight, I thought this was the best defense the Oilers team has ever played in the history of this team in playoffs.
So now it's on to the Smythe Division Championship for the Edmonton Oilers. Quite an accomplishment when you think of it. Let's face it, when the season began, there were very few people would have thought the Oilers would have come up with this kind of upset. Ken Cholobek, TSN in Edmonton.
Thank you, Ken. So that means the Oilers will face the winner of the Winnipeg-Vancouver series. The Jets with a 3-2 series lead over Vancouver, coming off an ugly 8-2 loss on Sunday, though. The big question entering Game 6 was over who would start in net for the Jets. Rick Tabaracci, solid for most of the series, but rocked on Sunday, or Bob Essenza, whose only playoff work this season so far was in relief of Tabaracci on Sunday. The decision was to go with Rick Tabaracci, and he did not fare very well. First period, Jets up 1-0. Cliff Ronning gets behind the Jets' defense, makes no mistake. He's first of the series, game tied at 1. Still in the first, Vancouver grabs the lead. Pavel Bure blasts home the loose puck, 2-1 Vancouver. The Jets fans want their team to silence Pavel Bure. Clean Bure's clock, 34 seconds into the second. Doug Lister slides it to Ronning. He pots his second goal of the game, and it's 3-1 Vancouver in front, and the Jets can ill afford penalties like this one. Igor Ulvanov nails Jeff Cortnell with the elbow. With the score 4-1 Canucks, Jim Sandlak to Tom Fergus. Fergus with the nice move in front, beating Tabaracci on the short side, 5-1 Vancouver. 17 seconds into the third, Winnipeg mounts a comeback. Keith Tkachuk scores his second of the game. Winnipeg trails 5-3, and with all the momentum in the offensive end, it doesn't help the Jets in their own end. Brutal giveaway here, right to Bure, who snaps it home. A big game for the Canucks, 8 goals again. John Paddock and his Jets will pack their bags and head back to Vancouver for Game 7. Canucks win it 8-3. The series now tied at 3 wins apiece. Bure with the hat trick, Ronning with 2, Fergus with 2, Linden with another for Vancouver. Scoring for Winnipeg, it was Keith Tkachuk with 2 goals. Pat Elenick had the other. Bure scoring his first ever NHL playoff hat trick. And talk about a reversal of fortune for the Vancouver Canucks. Their goal scoring in this series, just 3 goals in the first game, 2 in Game 2 and 3, 1 goal in Game 4, but look at Game 5 and Game 6, 8 goals each. And the Canucks are on fire and looking like that team that dominated the Smythe Division throughout the regular season. With more from the Winnipeg Arena, here's TSN's Cam Clark.
With their backs to the wall, Vancouver took advantage of the Winnipeg Jets once again for second straight game. They had crisp passing, took advantage of Winnipeg's mistakes, and also used the body to their advantage in game number 6 of the Smythe Division playoffs.
Hopefully these last couple games are a big morale booster for our team, mentally anyways. You know, we're down 3 games to 1, and now it's just a 1-game series.
We're playing better than we did, let's say, the first 4 games, but you know, the first period again, you know, the Jets were flying. They were taking the body. They played a very aggressive game, and what they've been doing the whole series. You know, we got a couple of breaks again, a couple of power play goals, and you know, we took it from there. I think it quieted the fans down, which gave us a little more momentum.
It's a direct contrast to how we play all season. We play a lot tighter and a lot better, smarter game than that usually, and. I don't know why we're making those mistakes. If I did, I guess we wouldn't be making them, but, you know, we're just not executing the game without the puck in our own zone.
Winnipeg Jets are starting to understand how Vancouver has felt for the last couple of games. Now the Jets' back is up against the wall, and it's a do-or-die situation for both teams. So as game number 7 takes place Thursday night in Vancouver, the Winnipeg Jets will have the toughest game of their season ahead of them, with the momentum in Vancouver's favor. Cam Clark, TSN, Winnipeg.
Okay, thank you, Cam. Our next stop is the Met Center in Bloomington. Like the Oilers, the Minnesota North Stars were looking for a major playoff upset as well. It took overtime and instant replay on the game-winning goal to keep the Stars from knocking off the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings, of course, finishing first in the division this season. Mark Tenorti playing it physical early on, almost hitting Sean Burr into the Stars bench. Tim Cheveldae makes the biggest save of the opening period, stopping Neil Broughton. Still in the first, Tenorti runs Steve Yzerman from behind. He receives a major penalty. Second period, Bob Probert starts laying the body as well as he lines Gaetan Duchesne midway through the second. Gagne, breakaway. Cheveldae stones him. Late in the period, Yzerman fights off Tenorti. On the wraparound, but John Casey is there to make the save. In the third period, both teams combined had 7 shots on goal. Brian Bellows rings the crossbar with this one. We go to overtime. Tenorti with a glorious chance. But he too hits the goalpost. It stays out. Later in overtime, Sergei Fedorov cuts in on goal. It appears that he hits the crossbar, but wisely referee Rob Schick checks with the instant replay official. Here's a look at the replay, and you can clearly see the puck does go under the crossbar for the goal, the game-winning goal. 1-0, and yes, they celebrate on the Detroit bench. 1-0 is the final score in this game you saw live here on TSN. Fedorov with the only goal in the game for Detroit. The series now tied at 3 apiece. Tim Shovelday, 34 saves, earning the shutout. Well, John Casey was almost as impressive with 33 saves. The other Norris Division semifinal, Chicago against St. Louis. The Hawks with a 3-2 series lead and trying to wrap things up on Tuesday night. You'll remember Hawks coach Mike Keenan benched sniper Jeremy Romanuk for the third period of Game 5 on Sunday night. Now, apparently, Romanuk got the message because he was on fire on Tuesday. This was a physical battle as well. Right off the opening faceoff, Garth Butcher lays out Steve Larmer. Midway through the first period, Chicago's on the power play. Keith Brown with the shot from the point, hits the post. Puck comes in front to, guess who? Jeremy Romanuk. 1-0 Hawks. Later in the period, Garth Butcher gets paid back. Steve Larmer with the hit, just nails Butcher. Party on, Garth. Second period, Jeremy Romanuk does some more damage. Chris Chelios, nice pass to Larmer. Great move, picks the top corner, and it's 2-0 Hawks. Midway through the second now, Blues get on the board. Craig Janney's pass goes up in the air. Nelson Emerson bats it out of the air. St. Louis trails by just 1. Jeremy Romanuk had scored 2 goals tonight, but he had to pay the price as well. Vicious cross-check in the face by Lee Norwood. Here's a look at Rowanuk's face. He was the brunt of a number of solid checks and a number of dirty plays by the St. Louis Blues. Third period, late third period, Blues desperate to tie it up. Brendan Shanahan tees it up from the slot. Belfour with the save. Belfour and the Hawks hold on to win 2-1, so they advance now to face the winner of the Detroit-Minnesota series. The final score is 2-1. The Hawks win the series 4-2. It was Romanuk with both goals for Chicago. Nelson Emerson with his third of the series for St. Louis. The Hawks outshot in this game 38-24. A big game for Eddie Belfour and company. Help can't come soon enough for Coach Dave King and his Canadian team at the World Championships. Today on Sports Desk, Mario is at it again as the Penguins fight off elimination. The Expos are at it again. Oh no, another night game? And could it be the last game of the season for the Lakers?
Sports Desk is brought to you by Makita Canada Incorporated, Canada's leading manufacturer of professional power tools.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Sports Desk. I'm Chris Sedens. Also coming up in the next half hour, we'll preview Game 7 of the NHL playoffs between the Canucks and the Jets. Should be a dandy. We'll also check in with the Blue Jays at the Sky Dome. First up, the Stanley Cup playoffs, where the term home ice advantage certainly lived up to its name on Wednesday evening. You'll remember in Game 3 of the Penguins-Capitals series, the Penguins were down 2-0, but were brought to life by Mario Lemieux, who had 6 points. Wednesday night, the Penguins down 3-2, needed some Mario magic again, and again, Mario was there to provide it in a big way. Penguins come out flying, already up 1-0. Mario Lemieux feeds Kevin Stevens. Don Beaupre makes the first save, but Stevens converts on the rebound, and it's 2-0 Pittsburgh. Washington tries to come back. Mikhail Pavanka has a great chance. Paul Stanton takes the net off its moorings, draws a penalty, and with the score tied at 2, Capitals on the power play. They work it around nicely. Peter Bondra scores his second of the game, 6th of the series, 3-2 Washington. Capitals build up a 2-goal lead, but a brutal giveaway allows Joey Mullen to skate in all alone. It's 4-3 Caps. Then with the score tied at 4, Jaromir Jagr with a great pass. Lemieux with the goal and the celebration to follow. 5-4 Penguins. Capitals look to tie it late in the second period, but video replay shows that Paul McDermott high-sticked the puck in. No goal. Third period. The Penguins put it away. Lemieux will backhand the rebound, his 5th point of the game. Yeah, Mario's happy. The Penguins are happy. So are their fans. They're going to a Game 7. It was Pittsburgh winning this game 6-4. Bondra with 2. Hunter and Iafrate had the others. Stevens with 2. Lemieux with 2. Bork and Mullen had the others for Pittsburgh. Lemieux finished with 5 points. The New York Rangers with a chance to wrap up their series against the Devils on Wednesday night. They carried a 3-2 series lead and were hot off an 8-5 win on Monday. It's interesting, over the last 5 years, only one first-place team in the Patrick division has advanced to the conference final. That was the Penguins last season. No doubt New York trying to match that success this year. Let's go to action now in this one at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. The Rangers against the Devils. Devils strike first. Stanley picks up the stray pass, moves in on the breakaway, finds the 5-hole, and it's 1-0 Jersey in front. Scott Stevens throwing his weight around, as was Ty Domi. I guess Domi got the best of this one. Stevens flattened late in the first. Rangers in the power play. James Patrick beats Tony Amante, his first of the playoffs. Game tied at 1. Second period, New York leads 2-1. Claude Lemieux on the breakaway slides it through the 5-hole. Game tied at 2. Late in the second, Devils lead 3-2. Brian Leetch moves in off the point, snaps it home, and as easy as that, the game's tied at 3. Before the period would end, Lemieux takes the initial shot. Seager bangs in the rebound, and it's 4-3 Devils in front. Chris Terreri standing tall in the Devils' net here with the big save from in close on Adam Graves. New Jersey puts this one away when Lemieux feeds Stastny in front of the net. His second of the game, 5-3 Devils. When the time finally expired in this game, the bench is cleared. Several players squaring off. The Rangers going after Lemieux. Both Adam Graves and Ty Domi wanted a piece of him. Finally, Stevens moves into the rescue. Game 7 will be back at Madison Square Gardens in New York. 5-3 was the final. Jersey upsetting the Rangers. Amante, Leach, Domi scoring for New York. Scoring for New Jersey, it was Stastny with 2. Seager, Todd, and Lemieux with singles. Claude Lemieux with 3 points on the night. The series tied at 3, so Game 7 is coming up on Friday, and we'll have it live for you on TSN beginning at 7:30 Eastern Time. Join us for the broadcast. Well, I think that everyone's a little surprised the Hartford Whalers have gone as far as they have against the Montreal Canadiens this year. The Whalers finishing 28 points back of the Habs in the regular season standings. But we're still alive for Game 6 of the Wales Conference semifinal and not about to end the series on Wednesday night. Let's go to the action now in Hartford. Bad start for the Canadiens. Kirk Muller receives a major penalty and game misconduct for high sticking early in the first period. Habs fire 11 shots from Frank Pietrangelo in the opening period, but he meets every challenge with a number of great saves like this one. Second period, Zarli Zalapski moves down the wing, slides it under the glove of Patrick Roy. And it's 1-0 Hartford. But Denny Savard replies quickly for the Canadiens. Watch the moves he puts on here at the blue line. Then the wicked snapshot to the far corner. Game tied at 1. Pietrangelo facing 20 shots in the second period. Here the big save on Eric Desjardins. Desjardins with all kinds of room in close. In the dying seconds of the second period, the puck goes in off Brent Gilchrist. But was it directed in on purpose? Referee Dan Morelli waves off the goal. Pat Burns goes crazy. No goal. Overtime now, 24 seconds in. Kevin Haller gives it away. Andrew Castles to Ivan Korovo. 2-1 Whalers, and with that, the series is tied at 3. Surprise, surprise. We're headed back to Montreal for a 7th and deciding game on Friday. The goal scorers Savard for Montreal, Zalapski, and Korovo for Hartford. Buffalo Sabres coach John Muckler called Monday's 2-0 shutout win against the Bruins something to build on. 2 years ago, he faced the same situation with the Edmonton Oilers, down 3-1 against the Winnipeg Jets. His team fought back, went to a 7th and deciding game, won that, and also won the Stanley Cup. Muckler and the Sabres still 1 loss away from elimination, entering Game 6 at the Odd on Wednesday night. First period, Buffalo leading 1-0. Pat LaFontaine feeds it to Doug Bodger. He beats Andy Moog between the legs, make it 2-0 Sabres. Second period, LaFontaine goes in with the breakaway.
LaFontaine's got a break. He skates in.
Beautiful move as he leaps through the air. 3-0 Sabres. Now with the score 4-0 Buffalo. Ray Bourque coughs up the puck in his own end. Colin Patterson makes him pay for it. 5-0 Sabres. That would mark the end for Andy Moog. Enter Reggie Lemelin to replace him. Later in the period, Steve Hines pokes the puck to Brent Hughes. He breaks the shutout with the backhand, and the Bruins are down 5-1. Now still in the period, Wayne Presley from behind the net puts it out to guess who? Pat LaFontaine. Second of the period, 6-1 Buffalo. Before the period would end, Rob Ray runs Joe Gino into the boards. Gino catches the end of the glass as the Sabres crush the Bruins. The final in this one was 9-3. Hughes with the pair for Boston, Bork at the other. Presley, Bodger, May, Patterson, Corkum, Hannon, Wood, and Pat LaFontaine with 2 for Buffalo. The series tied at 3 as well. Stay with us. When we come back, will it ever end? Yes, Thursday.
Today on Sports Desk, 7th Heaven, the showdowns begin in the NHL playoffs. Daytime stars, the Expos do like to play under the sun. And they're at the post, almost, as the draw is held for the Kentucky Derby.
Everybody, and welcome to this edition of Sports Desk. I'm Gord Miller. Also coming up in this half hour, the Blue Jays begin an 11-game road trip and some surprising results from a Canadian sports survey. But up first, the opening crapshoot in the NHL, and the league rolls plenty of 7s in the playoffs. 6 of the 8 first-round series going the distance in the 92 playoffs. The first 2 deciding games played Thursday night. In addition to the distance, the story this year is of comebacks. In Vancouver, the Canucks trying to rebound from a 3-1 series deficit. Once unthinkable, but in recent years, almost commonplace. In fact, the team the Canucks were playing, the Jets, blew a 3-1 lead to Edmonton 2 years ago in the first round. The Jets go with Rick Tabaracci in goal, a decision some Jets fans didn't like. He was busy in the opening period, stopped Dave Babbage, but Tom Fergus ripped home the rebound, his 5th of the playoffs, 1-0 Canucks. Vancouver playing physical hockey. Sergio Momesso rides his man hard into the board. Second period, Tabaracci heroically keeps the Jets in it. First he stops Trevor Linden, then he gets the rebound as well. Seconds later, check out Jeff Courtnall. Great sweep pass over to Linden, right side again. Squirts this one through, though, 2-0 Vancouver. At the other end, Kirk McLean is frustrating the Jets. Aaron Broughton robbed late in the period. Early third now. The Canucks up 3-0, 2-on-1. Ronning to Courtnall, who's second of the night, makes it 4-0 Vancouver. Then, late in the third, Courtnall in all alone. Puts in his own rebound to complete the natural hat trick. The Jets blow a 3-1 lead in the series as the Canucks win 5-0 to advance to the Smythe Division final as the Jets advance to the first tee. Courtnall with the hat trick, this after being benched earlier in the series. Linden and Fergus had the other goals for Vancouver. Kirk McLean posts the shutout as the Canucks take the series in 7. Now the Canucks do go on to take on the Edmonton Oilers, who won 5 of the 7 regular season meetings between the two. But for now, the Canucks have not just survived, they have prevailed.
It was a hurdle that a few days ago we weren't sure we could pull off, but our guys were able to regroup and think about the things we hadn't done well earlier on, and it was a very good team effort the last 3 games, and in what is obviously a very scary situation, a 1-game setup, we were happy to be there, and our guys did a very good job tonight.
Feels great. I mean, you know, to be down 3-1, everybody was pretty down at the time, but we regrouped and everybody dug down and did what it took to win 3 in a row.
In Detroit, the Wings and Stars were first to play out the 7th game scenario in a series that had already seen its share of dramatics. 2 overtime games, including Game 6, won by the Wings only when instant replay showed that Sergei Fedorov had indeed put the puck in the net. But defense was the key to Detroit wins in Game 5 and 6 and would again play a major role in the deciding game of this series. Tim Chevrolet had not been beaten by the Stars since midway through the 3rd period of Game 4. First period, John Casey stops Jimmy Carson. Second, Wings put up the heat. Steve Yzerman tees it up, but Casey is there to make the save. Stars get a good chance in the second, but Tim Chevrolet stones Jim Johnson. Still in the second, Kevin Miller feeds Sergei Fedorov in front. He beats Casey, finally. 1-0 Wings. A few minutes later, Jimmy Carson
Passes to Alan Kerr. He shovels it by Casey, and the doors begin to open. 2-0 Wings. Later in the period, Gerard Gallant tries the wraparound. It goes under Casey's arm. 3-0 Detroit. Third period, the Stars are desperate. How desperate? They check the knob on Cheveldae's stick, and it is illegal. Minnesota gets a two-man advantage, and on the power play, Ulf Dallin slides it across to Brian Bellows. Hey, Stars are in it. They trail 3-1, but later in the third, Detroit puts the game out of reach. Jimmy Carson hits the iron. Bob Probert gets the rebound. 4-1 Wings, and the celebration begins at Joe Louis. It's raining calamari in one of the most disgusting post-game celebrations in all of hockey, but they love it at JLA as Detroit wins it 5-2. Fedorov, Kerr, Gallant, Probert, and Burr for Detroit. Fellows and Craig for the North Stars. The slipper didn't fit this year, and Detroit can't wait to see Chicago.
I think it's going to be a very physical series. Anytime you play Chicago, it's going to be like that. They're going to forecheck real hard, and the big key is going to be able to, to hold up their wingers, give some time for defensemen to move the puck, and if you can break their forecheck, you got a good chance of beating them.
Well, coming back from 3-1 deficits used to be quite something. The first time it happened was the 1942 Stanley Cup Final. Didn't happen again until 33 years later when the Islanders did it to Pittsburgh. Then after a 12-year gap, the floodgates opened and happened twice in '87, once in '88, and again in '89. In 1990, Edmonton did it to Winnipeg. St. Louis did it over Detroit in '91, and now this year, it has already happened twice. Detroit over Minnesota and Vancouver over Winnipeg 8 times in the last 6 years. Well, post-game rumbles have kept the gang at the NHL office busy. The post-game...
Coming up on Sports Desk, Game 7, and Pat Burns feels his collar tightening just a little bit. Mario tries to keep the defending Stanley Cup champions alive. And the Expos cooling their heels in San Diego.
And then there were 8. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sports Desk. I'm Gino Reda. It is nice to have you here. Just 8 teams left in the quest for the Stanley Cup. A great night of playoff hockey. All 4 of the first-round series in the Wales Conference went down to the 7th and final games in their respective series. Some Game 7s were predictable, but not many could have predicted the Canadiens would have gone the distance with the Whalers. And to add excitement to Montreal-Hartford, they needed to go to overtime to decide this series. What a great finish. 80 regular season games, 7 playoff games, and all came down to next goal wins. The Canadiens opened up the scoring in this one, took control early in the first. Matthew Schneider, the blast. Montreal leads 1-0. Then midway through the period, great individual effort by Gilbert Dion. Dion goes to the backhand, upstairs on Peter Angelo, 2-0 Montreal. But the Whalers didn't quit. Pat Verbeek fires up his team with his big hit on Denny Savard. Early in the second period, the Whalers catch a break. Andrew Castles comes up with it, a snapshot that beats Patrick Roy, somehow fools him. And Hartford within a goal, 2-1, Montreal leading. And late in the period, the Whalers continue to press. Patrick Poulin centers to Jeff Sanderson. He beats Roy, and the game is tied at 2. Later in the second, the Whalers looking for the go-ahead goal, but Roy makes a couple of big stops from in close. A thrilling third period early on, 2-on-1 Hartford. Roy stops Ivan Korovo. Minutes later, 2-on-1 for Montreal, but Peter Angelo comes up with the big stop. Reaches behind him to keep it out of the net. Still 2-2. Still in the third, Korovo in the slot. Korovo lets the shot go, hits the crossbar. Time running out. Mike McPhee in on the breakaway. McPhee on Peter Angelo. Angelo shuts the door. We go to overtime. No scored in the first overtime. In the second, Ivan Korovo on the breakaway. First really good opportunity. Korovo stopped by Patrick Roy. No, he shot it wide. Then 5:26 into the extra session, the Habs win it. Russ Courtnall's weak shot after the Hartford giveaway. And Frank Pietrangelo, after a terrific series in goal for the Hartford Whalers, can only watch as Montreal and the Forum crowd celebrate the fact that Montreal will go on to the next round with a 3-2 win. They win the series 4-3. Castles and Sanderson for Hartford. For Montreal, Snyder, Gilbert Dion, and Russ Courtnall his first of the series, a double overtime victory for Montreal. Michael Whalen has this report from the Forum.
This was a series that was supposed to go 6 games. In fact, after Montreal won the first 2, many people suggested it might be a sweep. But in the end, the Hartford Whalers gave the Canadiens more than they bargained for, going into double overtime before Russ Courtnall put an end to it all at 5:26.
It's a great goal to get, and I couldn't be happier for the guys that have played great throughout the series, and I'm glad that we can keep going here and we still have a shot at it.
Couldn't see a better guy score the winner, you know. I mean, great team effort tonight, and I mean, Hartford had an unbelievable series against us, but you know, Rusty showed a lot of character tonight and came back and got the biggest goal of the series. So it's great for him, it's great for the team, and you know, it's a big win for us.
Unbelievable feeling. Huge step for us. Great way to pull us together, and I was just very happy for a guy like Russ Courtnall. He's taken a lot of criticism in the media. He had a tough season with injuries, and a guy like that, he's been working hard for us. His game hasn't been at the top of the level, but what the heck, he came out and played a great game tonight, and he deserved to get that goal.
I shot, and the defenseman blocked it, and I kept my eye on the puck, and I came back and just spun around and shot it on the ice, and he didn't fly full.
Did you see it?
Did I see it? Well, it was slow enough to watch it go in the net.
You put in all that work all year, and we did work hard through the playoffs, and it's just tough that, you know, somebody has to lose, and it just had to be us in the second overtime.
On to the next Game 7 now. Sabres and the Bruins. Buffalo hasn't made it out of the first round of the playoffs since 1983. On the other hand, Boston hasn't been knocked out in the first round since 1987. Goaltending has been a big part of this series, and it was key in Friday night's game as well. First of all, Tom Draper did play solidly in goal, but wasn't getting much help. On the rebound, Glenn Murray puts it in, and it's 1-0 Boston. Sabres tied up shorthanded, just 2:07 of the second period. Pat LaFontaine. The story for the Sabres is 8th goal of the series. That's a Sabres record for most goals in the series, 1-1 tie. But Andy Moog, truly the story in goal. He just stones Buffalo. LaFontaine in close, a couple of good opportunities. No. Bob Corkum, the chance. No. Dale Howardchuk got him sprawling. Moog still makes a stop. LaFontaine showing the effects of a physical game. How physical? Peter Svoboda gets nailed almost into your living room. Early third period, Steve Leach working behind the Sabre goal. Tom Draper does not look good there. 2-1 for the Bruins. Then with the score tied at 2, Dave Reed skates in. Knuckleball fools Draper, and it's 3-2 Boston. Then with the Sabres pressing for the equalizer, Pat LaFontaine will get robbed by Andy Moog. Moog line on the ice does not give up. The Bruins eliminate the Sabres. Final score in this one, 3-2. The Bruins 5-0 lifetime in playoff series. The Sabres still trying to get out of the first round of the playoffs. Haven't done it since '83. LaFontaine and Howardchuk for Buffalo, for Boston, Murray, Leach, and Dave Reed. So the Adams Division matchup now looks like this. Boston versus Montreal. This will be the 5th straight year that these teams play for the Adams Division title. The Bruins have won 3 of the previous 4 series. Game 7 has historically been a nightmare for the Rangers. In New York's 65-year history, they have never won a Game 7. But Friday night's pivotal game with the Devils was an entirely different story. Roger Nielsen's future could well have rested on this Game 7. Quick start for New York. Darren Turcotte steals in his own blue line, goes in alone on Terreri and beats Chris Terreri. Just trickles in over the goal line, 1-0 for the Rangers. But the Devils answer back quickly. Tommy Albaline lets the shot go from the point, gets through a maze of players, and it's tied at 1. Midway through the first period, Rangers on the power play. Terreri stops the first shot. Mike Gardner gets a couple of whacks at it. He's been a great story in this series. 2-1 for the Rangers. Early in the second period, 3-1 New York. Adam Graves, perfect feed to Mark Messier. And Messier converts, and it's 4-1 Rangers. They're in complete control. Midway through the period, Rangers up 5-1 shorthanded. Brian Leach makes it 6-1. The Devils drew to within a pair in the third, but late in the period, Darren Turcotte will let the shot go, his second goal of the night. Again, Terreri not much chance despite a terrific series by Chris Terreri. This is the end of the road for the New Jersey Devils. Handily, the Rangers take command of this game. Albaline, Guerin, Lemieux, and Conacher for New Jersey. For the Rangers, it was Graves with a pair, Gartner, Turcotte with a pair, Messier with a pair, and Brian Leach. The Rangers earned their first ever 7th game victory. They're 1-4 in 7 games in their 65-year history. The night's final Game 7 now. The Penguins and the Capitals. A tough series to get a handle on. When Mario Lemieux is in and on his game, Pittsburgh has looked like a goal-scoring machine. Lemieux had 15 points going to the night's action. That was 4 points shy of Rick Middleton's record for points in a series. Lemieux took a step closer to the record midway through the first period. The shot by Lemieux, the rebound, and it goes in. Penguins led 1-0. And crying towel, not for Mario Lemieux on this night. Second period action, the Capitals tie it up. The puck comes to Ally afraid. He has all kinds of time. Finally, beats Barrasso and ties the game at 1. Later in the second period, the Pens add to the lead. Mario Lemieux again in front to Jaromir Jagr. Jagr, the beautiful move to the backhand, beating Beaupre. Great under pressure, 2-1 Pittsburgh. Now to the third, Pittsburgh cut the icing on the cake. Less than 30 seconds to go in the game. Actually, just a little over 30 seconds to go in the game. Open net goal by Joey Mullen made the score 3-1 Barrasso, and the Pittsburgh Penguins celebrate. The Penguins are just the third team in Stanley Cup history to rally from a 3-1 deficit without home ice advantage to win this one 3-1. They win the series 4-3. Lemieux, Jagr, and Mullen for Pittsburgh. For Washington, it was Al Iafrate. So the Pacific Division final now looks like this. It will be Pittsburgh and the Rangers, the defending Stanley Cup champs, against this year's President's Trophy winners. What a great series this will be. The Canucks have had to go to their farm team in Milwaukee for some help in time for the second round of the playoffs. They've called up goalie Bob Mason and wingers Sean Antosky and Robin Bawa from their Admirals in the eye. They needed some help. Dana Merzen, Gerald Didick, and Gary Volk all out hurt. Their series with the Oilers are supposed to start Saturday, but can't get underway till Sunday because the Pacific Coliseum has booked Paula Abdul for a concert. Time now for a short break here on Sports Desk, but when we come back, more hockey.